By the time I reached my teenage years, I was kind of a film snob and I went through a bit of an anti-Star Wars phase. Perhaps I felt it was a kid's thing and I grew out of it. But another thing that may have attributed to my brief disinterest in Star Wars was how unoriginal the movies seemed to me at the time. It's true that George Lucas was influenced by several films, but that's only what makes the movies so great. The characters are all famous archetypes. Luke is the classic hero, Obi-Wan's the classic mentor, much like Frodo and Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, or King Arthur and Merlin from Sword in the Stone. But there's so much more to it, I've barely scratched the surface. And it's not like nobody knows about this, there's a wealth of information on Star Wars influences all over the internet. But the fact that Star Wars takes old ideas and makes them into something new shows how ingenious it really is. It's not like it's plagiarizing, it's just that all ideas in general come from somewhere. It pays tribute to all these old movies, literature, folklore, mythology, and ultimately reflects our culture. The movies were a prime target for video game adaptations. They were full of all kinds of action set pieces, so how could they fuck that up?
So I know the Angry Video Game Nerd made a video about Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, and I love him and that video, but I don't give a fuck. Number 1, game feel! Number 2, day and night! Number 3,
the plot. So with all these complex elements left totally unexplained, George starts throwing the plot at us.
You know those Star Wars reviews I'm ripping off? Where the guy says that the prequel trilogy can never be undone. I'm not telling you yet. I want to build some suspense first.
We need to build up some suspense first.
Not yet. I want to build even more suspense.
No, not yet. Let's build some more suspense. Kamina is the coolest guy. Period. He's just the coolest.
For me, a real man is one that never abandons his beliefs, that always sticks to his guns.
Sometimes, we really like to just do our version of Peanuts.
Hey everybody, welcome to yet another Procrastinators podcast. We got like a huge gang here to talk about influences, starting with Mr. Endless Jess.
I can't talk right now, I'm replying to a commenter.
Oh! Fuck you, you don't understand the first thing about art, you piece of shit.
Followed by the best guy ever.
Fuck you, you piece of shit, you don't understand the first thing about art.
Mr. Tommy Oliver.
Hello.
Of Rebel Pixels. Speak up again, Tom.
Fuck!
This is all to establish what we sound like, so people can tell us apart when we all start screaming over each other. The new regular member of the Procrastinators podcast, formerly a guest, Jeff Thu of his mother's basement, the professional shitbag.
Yay!
Hello. Hi, people.
Welcome. Everyone welcome him.
Thank you.
Welcome.
In whatever way you choose to do so.
I take cash.
Now. That was a good intro. That was a good title.
Okay, we've got
still
a couple
going.
other people to go.
We got Hypocrite.
A hippopotamus by day, critic by day.
Sleeps by night.
Ben Saint, whose Patreon shall not be mentioned because it took him an hour to get into this damn podcast.
Welcome to my nightmare, viewers.
And last but not least, the Devu.
My thoughts exactly, sis.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about influences, what they are and what ours are in particular. That'll probably be the bulk of this podcast. But I want to start by talking about how, there seems to be... I've seen this in criticism and in people just generally talking about stuff before, where some people really don't like to show their influences, or they really like to try to make everything really unique and be everything should be
its own island of creativity.
Yeah, and I think that if you work within a medium at all, you're already showing influence, right? If you write a book,
absolutely.
It's assumable that you understand the concept of a book from having read other books. So I think that you can't escape showing your influence.
It's true. Every single medium was invented by someone, so the mere fact that you're doing it shows that you're taking inspiration from the people who came before you to do it.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? On the subject of that, when I was kind of sensitive to that myself back in the day, but I would watch Jesse's videos and think he was really funny, and then one day I realized that like it's entirely composed of quotes from other things assembled in just
one day I
a beautiful
realized
chaos.
he's
And-
not funny. He's a fraud.
That's the thing.
It was all a lie.
Funny. It was funny before I got it, and then once I knew, I was like, "This is also hilarious," because now I just get all these references. It was a double.
But I will
whammy
say though
of
that if you are a
deliciousness.
genius, you can just come up with things. I came up with LARPing, fan fiction, and summons from RPGs before I even realized they were actually a thing. So take that influence.
Yeah, I actually invented YouTube
Congratulations.
videos, actually, by the way, before anyone else did it. I just didn't have the means like 20 years ago when I thought of it. But
Yeah, I know, right?
It was my idea.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yep. Go on.
oh, never mind. This is totally off topic, by the way.
So yeah, well, I think it's really cool when people show their influences.
Wait, I
And
want
I've
to
always
respond
been
to
a-
what Guy said before. Guy, you said the thing about Jesse and noticing his influences, and I agree. When I realize like where something came from, I don't like it anymore, or I like it less.
Really?
Yeah.
You like it less, huh?
And
Well,
I think
honestly, like in terms of how much it engages me as like a thing, yeah. Like if I'm watching a movie and it's like, oh wow, this movie's great, and then like a month later I see another movie, an older movie, and I'm like, oh wow, this must be where that comes from. This did it better first. I lose. I lose some of
it did it better.
I lose some of that respect. I lose some of that respect for the one that.
Aren't
it
you
depends
working on a
lot.
Pokemon comic that's entirely based on Nuzlocke? Should I not read your comic? Is it shit?
It is shit, but
And,
yes.
I think what Ben just said is what a lot of people you can talk to, they'll usually express that kind of sentiment, and
That's true.
I
That's
think
very normie sentiment.
I
It
somewhat.
is a very normie sentiment.
Well, I think it could also be a cultural thing, because like I used to be like that kinda, but then Digibro over here like really made me realize how cool it was to embrace influence, and even though it's mostly a personal thing, I think there's a big element of a cultural thing, because he's big otaku, right? You're into that anime stuff, and over there they seem way more embracing of the idea of iterative creativity, like when video games were invented. Atari made a point: we will never make the same game twice. But then Japan got in on the scene, and it's just like Mega Man 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that kind of
Hang
stuff.
on, wait, are you saying Atari isn't from Japan?
Correct.
What
Atari's
the
an
fuck?
American
Are you kidding
company.
me right now? Where the fuck are they from?
It was from
They're
America.
from-
It's just that he named it
They're
after.
from the Silicon Valley, man.
Yeah, it's just that he named it
I
after.
I
This
thought
is
you were
completely
being
blowing my
like,
mind.
making a joke.
Yeah.
Nate.
No, he named it
America
after Atari is a move in the game called Go, which is no
No,
one
it's
Bushnell's.
it's a state and go. It's
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of
That's what I
weebs
mean,
in
yeah,
America
it's a
who
state,
invented
yeah.
the Atari. Okay.
Yeah, so
All right,
it's
all
a
right.
So
board
Weebs
state. And
invented
yeah,
Japan.
Yeah, Weebs invented video games. That's
invented-
what we're taking away from
So,
this.
to talk about the influence thing, though, which is the point of the podcast.
Incidentally,
I made
Weebs
it
didn't-
sound like I
no.
was bringing up a side topic for some reason. But I'm a big fan of like creative stuff that like deliberately shows its influences, because I think that you are basically recontextualizing things, and I think you can often make it better. Like I think a lot of Jesse's humor improves on the context of the original quote he's quoting by bringing it to something new. Like for instance, one of the ones we all found out about recently was when he says, you unzipped me.
Yeah.
And it was originally from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Right.
but the way that Jesse did it, like the delivery of it and the timing was like perfect in his video. And it was, I think in the original context of the original joke, that line is more of a throwaway thing that Frank says in the middle
I don't know.
of more
I think
stuff.
I think
don't
it's
want
pretty
to suck
funny in
Jesse's
the
dick
original.
too hard on it, because it doesn't really matter how good or bad
Are
he
you
did
sucking
it.
my dick? It sounds like you're all calling me a hack fraud.
Digi was.
I'm saying that when you showed me that clip from It's Always Sunny, I thought that line didn't stand out in Frank's speech.
Okay,
but then
well,
when you said it in your video, it was like a huge punchline.
Let's
it
not
came
have these
at a great
simpletons in
moment.
the audience walk away thinking that everything I've ever said is a line from something else.
No.
And you do the references really well. And
I
think,
am the greatest writer in the world, the most creative, articulate, intelligent person in the world.
this
Everything
podcast
that I've
isn't
ever
about-
said in my life is 100% unique. I have no influences. I influence my influences. They take
This
influence from
podcast
me
isn't about
in
our
hindsight, in
originality.
retrospect.
Yeah, that's right.
All my
But anyway,
heroes in their
I wanted
graves
to talk
are
about
listening to my words.
Someone
Someone
who really put into context, like for me, like what is great about references was Roger Ebert, and he wrote this review of Kill Bill where he was talking about how
Roger Ebert, another guy that I
know,
influenced greatly.
Tarantino would basically take bits and pieces of
That
other
whole
movies
no
that he was
jaw
a fan
thing he's
of.
rocking, I taught him that. I showed him. That was my.
God damn it, Nate!
I cut
This is
my
never
jaw
gonna
off
end if
years
you do
ago.
this.
Okay, go on.
So he was talking about Kill Bill and how that movie, you know, takes bits and pieces from all these other movies and sort of combines them into one. But he was saying how, like, for instance, the song that the girl with the eye patch whistles, the like,
Yeah.
that one. He was like, this is from a movie from like the 40s, but this movie doesn't have that song as a reference to that movie. It's just something that this character happens to also sing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's there to say, hey, remember this movie from the 40s? It's like...
It's been given new life in the new context.
Like Alex
Yeah,
DeLarge
well, that
singing,
doesn't
singing
sound
in
like
the rain
that
while he's doing
doesn't
his
sound
rape.
like a reference at all. Then that just sounds like two movies
But
happen to use the
it
same
is a
song.
reference because
But he definitely deliberately... That song is
Yeah.
from a 1940s movie, and he has put it in his movie.
Oh,
but in this
yeah.
context, it is not referencing that movie as in, like a callback to it. It's more like... This song happens to exist in both universes, even though he didn't invent the song.
The movie
he
takes place
repurposed
in
it.
the movie
for-
takes place in the real world, where that
what,
song.
Kill Bill?
Where,
Does it?
shut up.
Debatably.
Yes, the movie takes place in what is ostensibly the real world, where that song exists. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that kind of a reference is way different than like I don't know.
Well,
know,
I think that a lot of the our
whatever.
culture's backlash towards references and tribute came from the fact that it was overdone by people who weren't very good at it. I believe it really took off in a good way from like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which had all sorts of references. But I think around the 2000s, some shows were going too far with it, particularly some kids shows like.
Much celebrated was their reference of stuff.
Yeah,
There was
but
a lot of
like
stuff
I remember
being
like
discussed in
as
the
a
movie.
kid watching Kids Next Door, and that show's references are terrible. It's just annoying.
That's bullshit.
They just-
That's a 10 out of 10 show.
they just-
There's no problems with it at all.
It's just-
It's
they
the
just
best.
they just
That's
ripped
a
off
bad
other whole
show. I
storylines
don't
and
like
didn't add much to it. And even South Park, I felt sometimes was getting really lazy with its references. Like, you know, in some
Sure,
episodes.
some people have said
Well, that's the whole problem with
could
references.
be-
is because they are lazy. You can be like, "Hey, remember this thing that exists?" And then people are like,
They-
"Yeah,
Well, they can be.
Age,
They can be.
It
I
ages
think
horribly
the-
when you
They
do
can
it
take a lot of
badly.
effort.
Yeah, if
The
if
funniest
point,
Yeah.
The
if
funniest reference ever that I saw in South Park was when everyone was dressing up like Bane, and like the newscast, they would show like the news, and the news person would just say like, the South Park is under attack by
fire
Banes. There's a lot of Banes coming around and
yeah.
kidnapping
And now,
people.
I believe you're the one who said like sometimes references are just, hey, remember this thing? Yeah, if the reference's point is just to go, hey, remember this thing, then it probably sucks. But there's a million ways for references to have a point.
Right, you can do
I
references
think
good and
if
bad.
I was going to take two Western cartoons to use for examples, I'd go with Johnny Test for a bad example. There was a whole episode that was a Pokemon parody. The whole thing was just, hey, this is like Pokemon. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And then if I was going to use good references, Steven Universe has a whole
Yeah.
episode that's like a weird Akira parody. No one like it doesn't call attention to itself at all.
Which one was that?
the cat
the one where the cat turns into like a blob monster.
No, he grows cat fingers.
Where he turns into a
Oh
okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I
He turns
gotcha.
into like a cat Akira monster, and it's like, what the fuck is?
know,
how is this happening? You know?
I didn't realize
Steven
that was
Universe-
an Akira thing, but thinking back on it, I totally see it.
You know, I don't know if I completely buy that, but whatever.
It's dude. If you watch it again, it's definitely
It was
an
definitely
Akira
horrific, and a similar thing
No,
happened
guy,
to Tetsuo.
the actual like the way that
Yeah.
it looks and moves is really
Okay,
fucking
fair. If you say so, I'll believe.
I mean,
That
Steven
show
Universe.
does-
If you want me to go get a different reference, the Revolutionary Girl Utena references when Pearl fights her shadow. I did a whole video.
Now, see, that's a brilliant one, because the people who don't know what that is, no one's going to give a shit. It's just a cool fight. But if you do
Yeah.
know, it's like, holy crap, that's so cool. That's like a show I watch. This is
Steven
cool.
Universe in
Does that make it
general,
better?
it handles references really well. I think
that-
the
they're
episode
all
that
really
made
subtle.
me fall in love with it was when they go to the movies, which is a whole pastiche of references, and then they end with Lion in the MGN logo, and that's just you know,
I
that's-
remember like being a kid seeing reference stuff, and I'm always like, I know this is a reference to something, but I don't know what. But I know it's a reference because it doesn't make sense in context, and it just
Yeah.
made me feel uncultured, uneducated, and pissed off.
And Steven Universe
be
is
bad.
always like, hey, this is funny in the context of the show, but if you get it, you're like, oh, they're paying homage to the people who influenced them making this. And that's the right way to do it.
As long as it's still entertaining, even if you don't get the reference, I see absolutely no problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, guys,
the wrong way to do it is just fucking Peter Griffin walks out. Gosh, this reminds me of the time that eclectic scene from movie happened, but with Liam Neeson in it.
Well, I kind of like that. I kind of like the way Family Guy does it, or at least did it, because like part of the joke is like you don't know what any of this stuff is referencing because you're not 35.
You guys fucking love your references and whatever. Oh, it goes cultural context, but you guys are all dumb because the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, no matter what it is, no matter what is being said, if it's original, it's better than if it was a reference.
You're dumb. Disagree,
You're
Ben.
dumb.
Yeah.
Any reference that you can say, oh,
Nothing
it's so
is
cool how
original,
she
though.
did the revolution. Shut the heck up, whoever's talking. It's so cool how she did the Revolutionary Girl Utena thing in Pearl and whatever. But no, it's not. I mean, it might be cool, but wouldn't it have been even cooler if they thought it up themselves? Yes. That's my thesis.
I think the
Steven
reason
Universe
I like
thinks up plenty of its own stuff.
God damn it, you're not listening. I'm saying that particular thing would be better if it was
Ben,
original.
I don't think it should, and here's
it's
why.
one
Because
little
I
fucking-
think that. Let me talk, goddammit, because the reason
I hate all
I
these
am
fucking
called
people. They all make me.
the reason that I call shut the fuck up. The reason I called myself the 21st century digital boy is that I like stuff that's new. I like stuff that's coming out now because I think that we should constantly be taking all the old shit and just making it better. And making it new again.
I'm not saying that it's wrong to make references or that references are bad. I
I'm
just
saying
think
that
that if
I
something
think
is
we're
original, it is better than if
I
it
don't
is
think
derivative.
so, because I think that what we have to do is take something older and say, well, this thing is cool, but it's not that cool. So what if we took all the coolest ideas from that old thing and put them in this new thing with all these other cool ideas, and we made something that's just all the coolest ideas from all the old shit.
There's at least one time in one of my videos where I almost plagiarized a short Mr. B-Tongue sentence, not like as a shout out or a callback, but because I just thought this sentence makes exactly the point I need to make at this particular time better than anything I can think of.
Well,
and there's
let me
a couple
tell you,
of times where I've almost plagiarized an AVGN line because I just thought this is the perfect thing to say.
In my Gurren Lagann video, I specifically rip off a
I
whole
know. I remember
section
there's
of
a part,
Mr. B-Tongues, and I made it into a joke.
I remember
so I recontextualized the whole thing, and I think elevated the use of references.
Wow, pat yourself on the back a little harder.
Well, look, Ben, think about it this way. I mean, when people make movies, like most of the shots are shots that have existed before. Because they are shots that we have realized make sense for conveying certain things. Like, if we wanted to show someone doing a knife throwing thing, like, there's a certain way you cut that makes it work. And so there's no reason to make it completely different every time if there's one cut
scenes
that's the
with
optimal
Pearl
way to
fighting
do
the
it.
hologram of herself.
I can appreciate that. But I still believe. But I still believe that if you have two options and one is original and one is derivative and they're otherwise equal, I think the original one is better.
Okay, but let me ask you real quick.
What if the original thing sucks?
No, I'm saying if two things are equal, except one is a reference and one is a
very huge assumption.
What two things are equal ever? That doesn't even make
I don't know. I'm just making a fucking thought. I'm just making a thought experiment here.
If you're saying something original,
that exact example though, basically, what is going on in the specific example? It is a sword fight. How much do they really have to work with that? Yes, perhaps.
Oh my god, I don't care about the
something.
specifics of the scene. It's not important.
That's exactly what you're arguing. The point is they chose to turn that scene, which was just a fight scene, and make it into a reference and add that layer to what was going on.
What
they
does
could have
that
maybe
add?
done something
What
else.
does that add to the
All
scene?
of us like it. All of us.
Well,
enjoy
what
you
adds
like
to
it?
the
Oh,
scene,
great! But what does it add?
Well, no,
Nothing.
Ben. What it adds when you make a callback to something, to me anyway, you're calling back to what the meaning of the original was, and it allows you to put more meaning into your scene by, like, for instance, if a show makes a reference to Evangelion, then it's making reference to, like, what that show stood for, and it sort of pulls that meaning into your work in a very easy way.
And fighting with the Revolutionary Girl Utena fight.
Isn't that a little lazy? Isn't it a little lazy to fall back on the meaning and the investment built up from an old show to try and convey that into yours?
Would you rather that they entirely retell the story of Ava just so that they can have all of the emotional buildup of Ava and then put it in their show? Or would you rather that they made a quick reference that completely summarizes everything of this show that's already happened and we don't need to happen again, and then puts that purpose into this new show so that we can have an even higher density of ideas?
Yeah,
that only works if you know the original source material.
Ben, your entire position makes absolutely no fucking sense to me. You are
It's perfect. perfect. My position is perfect.
You are writing a comic about Pokemon right now, are you not?
Yeah, Ben, my problem with your stance here is the logic of it, because basically you're saying if an original version is every bit as good as a reference, then the original. But here's the thing: like I remember in my Q&A, people asked me if killing a baby was the right thing to do, and you had no other option, would you do it? I'm like, well, yeah, that's a very
this question. In
your
I know what you're gonna say.
That's an
you're
overpowered question, and you're saying it's basically like saying if a salad is better, if a hamburger was more healthy than a salad, the hamburger would be more healthy. Yeah, no kidding. You just defined the terminology to be whatever you wanted.
No, that's not true, Devu. You're wrong, because what I'm doing is I'm setting all other aspects equal, except for the fact that
biggest idiot ever.
Except for the fact that one is original and one is derivative. That is the variable. That is the fucking variable.
Ben, if that's the only variable, then maybe yes, picking the original one's a better idea. I don't think that will ever be the case.
Right.
That it would be a perfect split.
And I would say that with the Pearl fight, that's just a little quick training fight. That's not like the big finale or anything. So just let it be something that's easier to make.
Why do you guys love this scene so much? What is so great about the fact that it looks like Utena?
Ben, because it's a cool little reference. What's not so great about it?
But I don't know. Ben, I mean, maybe it's because I don't give a fuck about Utena because I've never seen it.
Well,
but
it elevates what otherwise would have been a totally
just
meaningless
connecting
into something that you now care about.
Elevates it. Yeah, whatever.
Here's the problem. That means anything? It's just like, oh, that's a thing I've seen. Like,
not everything has to be super meaningful. Like, does the animation in something that's really pretty, is that really elevating the message behind it all? I don't know.
I've never seen Revolutionary Girl Utena before, but I watched that scene, and I thought the animation looks cool. I didn't know what it was referencing until everybody told me.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks cool, and they copied it because they're not as good as animators or whatever. I mean,
whoa, come on,
right?
That's what it comes down to,
Nate.
That is not what it comes down to. That is
I'm not saying they're as good, but I'm
not
saying
my point was that does it really matter that they're taking shortcuts? Do you care that much about
Yeah, I really just production
shortcut.
I'm not against shortcut. It is a shortcut.
It's not. They're deliberately deciding to do it a certain way.
I don't agree. I do not agree. I do not agree that I do not think they said, "Hey,
everybody shut up!" Jeff's been trying to say something for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I have. Okay. So Ben, seriously, your entire argument is predicated on the idea that a scene can nebulously be better if you extract all inherent meaning from everything that they do in the writing, directing. Everything about the scene, if you take that out and it's just like, okay, so technically speaking, this is on the same level as this. That doesn't mean anything, though. The only question is it better for your story if...
I see your point.
What was that book that Vincent was reading in the Vapors? I think you should edit that out, Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
that's all the
you
context
fucking
that's at.
Idiot. No, that you pieces of shit, garbage. I hate you all.
Okay, when you do a reference,
what that is, what
to it, right? It was really deep and insight. It was
he should have been reading
for that book.
It is fundamentally different. It is fundamentally different. Everybody shut the fuck up right now. Everyone. Listen to me. That kind of reference is the sort of reference of the girl in Kill Bill singing a song that really exists. That is a reference to a real thing that exists in the real world.
Ben,
it is not.
I'd just like to ask,
I did not have him do something exactly like
did
what's
you
her
copy
name
paste
from Watamote. It's not like a frame. No, it's not copy pasted or anything like that.
See.
It's not like the Revolutionary Girl Utena thing with Pearl, where she just does the thing the other character does.
But it would have been better if you wrote your original thing.
I think.
Let me just ask you real quick, Ben, because isn't it just a little bit hypocritical? Now, don't get mad. I'm just saying.
It is not.
Listen to what I'm going to say, because what you're doing is you're introducing something that has all this context in the outside world. Is it really that wrong? I mean, based on your argument, wouldn't it be better if you had somehow constructed a book in that universe that has all this meaning that you're applying to the situation?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Putting an element that really exists in the real world into a work of fiction is not the same as copying another work of fiction.
I get your point
in your
now,
fiction.
Ben. Yeah,
I
see your point.
I think that the reason I'm going to try to justify the scene that has come into question, because the reason that Utena was animated the way it was, the reason that they showed her do those specific movements, was because the show was supposed to have this sort of regal, it's this old school fencing, like, you know, the characters are meant to feel like they're from the 1800s almost. Like, it's supposed to bring back this image of nobility. It's a show about princes and princesses fighting, even though it takes place in a high school.
And that connects to Pearl's character.
Yeah, and it matches Pearl's character because she's supposed to be a knight.
Right.
She's supposed to be a regal, noble character.
Okay.
So using the same iconography was because it would communicate the same point. It would still make her look like a knight.
I do understand. I understand that the reason they did it is because the sort of theme or tone conveyed by that bit in Utena was basically similar to the tone that they were trying to go for with Pearl's character in Steven Universe, so they kind of, you know, copy.
You know what? I disagree with the whole basis
No,
of this.
just let me finish. But the thing I'm saying, it's not that it was wrong of them to do that, but I am saying that the fact that it was derivative and not original is, in my opinion, a weakness.
Well, I don't think it takes anything away from the scene.
I don't think you have to explain yourself or apologize for putting a reference to something.
I don't think they have to apologize. I just don't think it's as impressive as it would have been if it was completely original.
So it's more impressive. It's more
less impressive
because I see it and I go, "Wow, they did a thing on purpose so that people like me who recognize the thing would see it and appreciate it more." That's more impressive.
If that same exact scene were in Steven Universe, but Utena had never happened before, it would be a way more impressive scene.
No, it wouldn't. Nobody would even remember it if it wasn't a reference.
Let's let Tom say something.
No, it's interesting because I think I definitely am like empathizing with what Ben is saying. I kind of get where he's coming from, and I think the reason I understand where he's coming from is because like we both draw shit. And like you kind of want to be more creative that way, like you want to be more original because like you have like you're more driven to do that. Whereas if you guys analyze things, like being able to have those references, like lets you you appreciate that because you're able to extrapolate more. Can I
just make a comparison of that fight because I want to bring up because this fight is a direct ripoff. Hang on, this fight is a direct ripoff of the Utena fight. That's true, and we were arguing that has a meaning and it's a good thing. But if you contrast that with a thing like in Naruto, they shot for shot copied this fight from the Cowboy Bebop movie, and it is absolutely vapid.
But that's such a great reference because it calls back all the emotional weight of the Cowboy Bebop.
Ben, you're not listening. I'm arguing that it has no value. That is just them just being that is them. Literally being super
and
lazy.
it's the same thing.
Well, it's not. That's very different. That's where we disagree because I think that one doesn't have value.
I think that in the Cowboy Bebop. In the Cowboy Bebop movie, that fight made sense because the two characters were both supposed to be real people using real kung fu moves, and the fight itself is a reference to a Bruce Lee film, even in the Cowboy Bebop movie. So, because of the fact that Spike uses the same fighting style as Bruce Lee, I think it's Jeet Kune Do, something like that. He uses Bruce Lee's fighting style.
He uses a Ju-Fro Jitsu,
and he even quotes. He even quotes Bruce Lee sometimes, you know, so he is meant to be a Bruce Lee character, and Cowboy Bebop itself is a huge pastiche of references to everything possible.
I guess Cowboy Bebop shouldn't exist. I guess we should get rid of it.
Cowboy Bebop just gotta go.
My friend Ghost Lightning did a series of posts that chronicled a lot of the references in Cowboy Bebop.
Listen. Let me. Okay, so so obviously Naruto just copying the Cowboy Bebop fight. That's bad. And derivative and shameful.
Because of the intent behind it. If you are deliberately trying to make people recognize it as a callback to something, then that's a reference.
Jesse,
if you're just
you gotta take the dick out of your mouth before you make a point.
I'm eating a fucking steak!
The Cowboy Bebop movie, okay, I don't know exactly to what extent it was copied, but if the Cowboy Bebop movie...
frame for frame.
If the Cowboy Bebop movie copied a Bruce Lee fight, I mean, I don't think that's as bad because it's translating a real-world thing into animation, but I think it's fundamentally the same thing.
No,
even though I think one example is much worse than another.
There is meaning in the scene in Cowboy Bebop.
Makes it work.
Right.
But
because of the fact that Spike is supposed to fight like Bruce Lee. That is his fighting style. And in Naruto, there is no... Like, I mean, maybe if Rock Lee had used it, if he was the one in this fight scene, maybe it would have been more clever.
That would have been a better connection. But like, it's
the
whole
characters who have nothing to do with that.
Like, your whole argument, Ben, is it's like predicated on this idea that it's inherently better to create your own iconography.
Yes, that is exactly my argument.
The thing is that if you are arguing that, then your scene where your character is reading your book, the only difference between a character
listen,
using a thing.
Listen,
let me finish my point.
I'm gonna let you
let
finish.
Me finish.
I just want to
I've
say
been
that
trying
your
to
point
talk
is bad
for like
because
10
it is a
minutes.
fundamentally different kind of reference. But go on.
Okay, so it's still fundamentally a reference, right? So the blanket idea of you can do a reference right or you can do it wrong is what applies here. Like, if you just have a character reading fucking Catcher in the Rye because you want them to seem edgy, that is a bad reference in the same way that the Naruto fight is a bad reference.
No, that is not a bad reference. That is totally different. Can you not see how it would be different? How it would be a fundamentally different kind of reference to, one, frame by frame copy a fight from a movie for the movie, or versus having, fucking Spike Spiegel watching a Bruce Lee movie on TV. Those are two completely different kinds of reference.
Let me. So the argument that you're making is for like the exact same distinction that people complain about all the time about music in movies, and how if you have like a pop insert song in a movie, some people say that that's bad, but if the character is listening to the pop song, suddenly the fact that it's existing within that world somehow legitimizes it. And I think that argument is purely coming from this perspective that a world of a show needs to be all the time 100%
diegetic.
Diegetic, and it has to stay within the fourth wall. And the thing is that we as an audience know that this is a cartoon made out of individual drawings for babies, right? It's not. Steven Universe isn't a real person, so it doesn't it wouldn't make a difference if Steven Universe was sitting down watching TV. I wouldn't buy into that universe any more than I already do. The fact that I know that this is something made by a creator is another level of interest for me as somebody watching this.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think what Jeff's trying to say is that there's a level of meaning that you can get from having the character in the work be in our world and read Infinite Jest. But then if you had a reference to Infinite Jest in the way the character's acting, that's also another kind of meaning that we can appreciate as an audience. Where Jeff is saying that
when you look
disagree.
at something as art, and you see that there are references to like old anime in Steven Universe, that tells you something about Rebecca Sugar. It tells you something about the artist, and that's valuable.
Right.
How is that valuable? How is that valuable to the work itself?
It's all
For
part
me,
of the
it's
package,
extremely inviting to my appreciation of the show, because I feel like the people making it come from a similar place to me.
Okay.
Like, I watch Steven Universe and I think, references to Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, and Akira. This is obviously made by someone from my generation who also grew up watching anime in the 90s, who has the same kind of cultural reference points that I do, and therefore I relate to the work
Ben, can I try to interpret
better.
your position here? Because I think I might be able to phrase it in a way that, like...
Go for it.
I'll interpret his position. I'm a big dummy, and
Okay, so like... Okay.
I'll interpret my position.
All right.
That's about it!
If someone can read a book, right? That makes sense. That's something that a normal person would do. And sometimes someone might quote a movie intentionally. But the human mind is so complex that there's no point at which someone's mind is going to be taken over by a scene from a movie from 1993, and just suddenly they will act like this scene for 5 seconds. That's just not something a normal person would do, and it's not something that you can relate to. So if all of a sudden, this actual knight, like Pearl, is suddenly doing everything that a 1997 anime character did, you're like,
it's as though she watched Utena and is copying it, but that's obviously not what's happening.
Well, I don't
know.
Anime exists in the Steven universe.
The
Maybe
problem I have...
Amethyst showed her Utena, and Pearl was like, wow, this is a pretty good TV show. Maybe
you know that's not what happened.
Has Pearl ever shown interest in like Earth culture ever?
Again, though, I think
you know that's not what happened.
It's just that this thing that a knight does exists in both universes. It's not in context of the show. It's not a reference to Utena in context of like the universe. It's just the way she fights.
Like,
don't you think
chose to
like,
present
so Ben,
that?
I
don't
do
you
understand
think
your
that
position.
clear?
It's fourth wall breaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't you think that clear kind of reference pulls you out of the work and makes you aware of its artificiality?
We already know!
So hang on, what Jeff is trying to say is I'm already out of the work because I know it's a work.
That's stupid.
Hang on. Okay,
That's
so now I get it now.
stupid.
I get it now. Ben is making a case for those people who are not interested in a fourth wall breaking scene. They're more interested in something being all contained within a universe, and I think you're actually making a good point here.
Yeah,
if you depending on what your values are, that's going to
I don't value that at all. I don't value being kept within the work.
The thing is, though, if you don't know
maybe
it's a
you don't
reference,
value that, but I
matter.
think a general audience, it's way more valuable that a thing doesn't take you out of the work.
Look,
I don't know. I think that's the thing. Nobody knows.
I think it's very assumptive to think that most people even feel that they are in a work. Like I don't watch
That's
something
the way
and
you're
think,
supposed to feel when you watch something.
When I watch a TV show or an anime,
Thank you, Tom.
It depends.
Look,
when I watch
my brother,
Go on,
Gib, go.
when I watch
Or no.
anything or read anything, I look at it and sometimes I get references, sometimes I don't, and then I enjoy it based on how cool it was, and then I go about my day. That's it. Why can't we just be that simple? Why's it got to be so complex? I don't think about other things.
Clearly.
I don't think at any point when I'm watching a show do I feel like, man, this is so real. I am totally here.
You know what really bothers me about Ben's position is that, to me, it seems like you're making the same case as when I say, oh, another YouTube channel or a Facebook page stole my video and uploaded it, and then people say, well, you reference things in your videos, so you're a plagiarist too.
Oh boy!
You are equating deliberate references with sneaky
not.
plagiarism.
So
that is not
and
what I'm
you're
doing.
undermining actual plagiarism by doing it.
I disagree.
Here's my question for the purpose of any work of art is to get you immersed in it. If that's the case, if the purpose of storytelling is to make you believe the world and that's it, then why are shaky cam movies so much fucking worse than movies with subjective, artist-driven camera placement?
Because immersion doesn't mean an actual
one-to-one
interpretation of reality. When you say you are immersed in something, it's that you feel like you're ignoring outside stimuli. You're just like, you're invested in what's going on screen. It doesn't mean like you feel like you're actually in the position of the character.
But my question is, if doing something with a camera that the human eye can't possibly do, which is done all the time in movies, totally okay, doesn't take you out of it, then why does making a reference to something that influenced the creator, which just as much acknowledges the fact that there is an artist guiding your vision of this product,
ooh, that's a good point.
why does that take you out of
Jeff
it?
and Jesse, you guys are both misunderstanding his point. I respectfully understand his point now.
I agree with Ben now.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
You agree with me?
Well, here's the
No,
thing.
I agree
Really,
with
Jesse? Just like that?
I'm switching sides. I'm on Ben's team.
Why,
now.
Jesse? Well, I don't get it.
I'm on
What
Ben's
changed?
team,
What
too.
changed just now, Jesse?
Well, because I remembered that sometimes I get like guys who say they're influenced by me on YouTube, and then I watch it and they're just stealing my lines word for word, and that pisses me off.
How do you think that the person that animated that scene in Revolutionary Girl Utena feels when she watches Steven Universe?
Okay,
and is
well
like,
now I'm not on your team anymore.
I
used
can't
to
believe
love
these
you.
Steven Universe people actually watched my show from 30 years ago.
Okay,
wow,
okay,
that's
fine.
Cool.
Only because that was like 30 years ago.
You know what? I'm off Ben's team. I almost agreed with him, but
You almost had it. You almost had that Jesse
What we're really
vote,
talking
and
about
you
here
lost
is
it.
what we're really talking about here is suspension of disbelief, and it's totally different for everybody. What will break your suspension of disbelief?
How thick your cord
My suspension of disbelief gets broken by totally different, weird, random things that have nothing to do with references. Like I still feel like, even though I don't, like, when I watch Steven Universe, I think, okay, obviously this is a show. It's animated. It's made by people. I know how the sausage is made. I know what goes into it. I know how each shot is meant to make me feel an emotion. And more so than feeling that emotion, I just think about the technique used. But that doesn't mean that I don't have any attachment to the story, because when I see the references and things, I just think they're cool, and I like the story overall. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief because of the cool things going on.
My brother, when he looks at cover art, like I was showing him like panty and stocking on Mal, and he was like, the cover art bothered him because the characters were facing with their weapons toward the camera, but the enemy that they should be fighting was behind them, making a dramatic pose. And my brother was like, why aren't they aiming their weapons at the enemy? It completely threw him off, and he hated it. But whenever a cover...
That is such a weird
I know, right?
complaint.
But it really pisses him off, because he's like into weapons and fighting and stuff, and hunting and shooting.
Right.
But whenever a cover art is just like abstract, like there's just like a Photoshop filter in the background, he doesn't mind because it's that level of abstraction. But panty and stocking, that cover art's in a city, and so it throws him off. I would have never, ever thought of that. So that's different levels of suspension of disbelief.
Right.
That
and
Ben,
everyone has different stuff that'll break it. And
so
for
Ben,
me,
we
it'll often
respect
be
your
like,
differences. We understand, all right? And we respect them and your life choices.
Let me just defend myself one last time.
No.
Vincent reading Infinite Jest is not the sort of reference that can break your suspension of disbelief.
I agree.
Because
I agree with that.
That is true. That is
that is what's different about it.
Now that we have settled that question, perhaps we should move on to the next part.
Right.
Yeah.
So part 2 of this, we actually talk about our influences.
The actual
Wasn't
point
that
of
supposed
the
to be
podcast.
the actual point?
Well, I intended from the time that I first suggested this podcast for us to talk about influences in like how they work, and then for us to talk about our influences. I just thought the first part would only be 5 minutes long because I didn't expect a complete disagreement.
Oh, if you guys want a
from
more
anybody.
specific like example of like influence chains, go listen to I don't know if this plug is okay with you, Digi, but you have this old podcast where you talk about Pacific Rim and how people say it ripped off Evangelion, so you spent an hour talking about its lineage of Evangelion to prove how everything is a ripoff, and that was a very interesting podcast that really makes the case one-sidedly, I might add, about why references are omnipresent and good.
I know that everything is a ripoff to some degree. I just think that that's not a good thing necessarily, and that the less of a ripoff you are, the better.
Yeah, I'm back on Ben's team.
If you want the continuation of that whole idea train of thought, go listen to that Pacific Rim podcast, I guess. And then now let's get into this. Nate, you said that you had the shortest list of references or influences.
That's not true,
so
but I did say I could go through it quickly.
Yeah, someone has to go first and throw themselves in front of the bus to set the tone.
I have the least desire to talk about mine at great length because I'm currently ashamed of how small my channel is, so I can just bang this thing out in a minute.
Nate, tell us about your influences.
Okay, so first of all, to set the context, what I'm really describing here is the things that that are affecting the way that I make videos, how I came to this point, and that's it. That's it. I'm not talking about anything outside of this shit. So okay, I've been saying for a while that I wanted to be the JonTron of anime, and that was at a time when JonTron was good. Times have changed, and he's shit. But still, there's an ideal of JonTron's golden age that I want to be at, even though our styles are totally different, so whatever. Demolition D is another guy who's my current hero, who also is a totally different style, who I'll never be able to be like exactly, but whatever, he's a guy. So the three... Oh, no, sorry. The two guys that are really kind of kickstarted the whole analysis shit on YouTube in the first place were the Red Letter Media guys, specifically the Mr. Plinkett reviews, and in particular the Mega Man sequelitis that Ego Raptor made specifically. Those two were kind of the things that made me realize that, like, oh wow, you can go like so fucking hardcore in analyzing shit online, and people are into it. So those were a game changer. Jesse Wood. Is a big one. He has I don't like him at all, but it would be I cannot deny that he's been a large influence on me, and to an extent, every single person in this chat. Probably, I mean, Ben is my brother, and we collaborated for a long time. And and
I would call that a form of mutual influence.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could go and be like, oh, my dad and like my teachers, but like whatever, fuck that. But still, Ben is someone who to this day I still share my stuff with and ask his opinion on stuff. So
I think there's a lot of both of our unique preferences in TBAP, and when I look at them, I can often see like, oh, this is a me thing, and this is a Nate thing.
Yeah, like all the good stuff's the Nate stuff, all the bad stuff that's the bad stuff.
That's correct. That's
correct.
No, all the emotional pathos is me.
No, that's all me. I'm the guy that care about feelings.
No,
That's me.
with Keg and Phantom sitting on that island, looking out into the sunset, sad about their failures in life. That's me.
Okay,
that's all
but
me.
Keg tucking in Phantom after his horrific nightmare dream, that was all me. And let's be honest, which of those is more impactful? All right, moving on. Now, this probably hasn't been seen a lot yet, but I am kind of obsessed with musical numbers. Everything that has a musical number,
because you have like 3 whole videos of just musicals. on
I
your
know,
channel.
and in fact, but you see, that's not really my ideal. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but I absolutely lose my shit when there's like and Jesse is the guy who does this the most. We'll make a video, and then there's just like a related song in it that is usually related to what's going on. That is my favorite thing, and I've aspired to be like that. And you see that in a bunch of T-Bap videos. And I actually just wrote a song yesterday to put into a video that's coming up, and it's gonna blow everybody's mind. So I'm big into that shit. And when I was younger, I did musicals, I did plays and stuff on stage in high school and in college a little bit. So that's something.
Cool.
And on this note, kind of the one video that I aspire to be like. I know not everyone's gonna be excited about it, but it's Anthony C's Reviewing His Magic Part 4, Canterlot Wedding.
It didn't even have a musical number, guy.
No, I know. I was going to say the only thing that could have made it better would have been a musical number. That's technically, on the technical fronts, not everything is perfect, but the structure of it, just like laying out shit and then having a big like cathartic reveal at the end. That is exactly what I look for.
Tommy made that too, right?
I was going to say Tom was in it and had a strong. But we know that it was Anthony who wrote it and did all the. The structuring of the video. So Tom, certainly to be celebrated.
Is that so?
I mean, I would say he did a lot of the general structure, but there was a lot of writing stuff that I did as well.
Oh, well, okay. I heard that he did like 100% of it, and you just did voiceover. So if that's not true, my mistake.
I wrote all of my lines and made a point to interject a lot of the things I said that he wasn't going to talk about at all.
Okay, I stand corrected. So thank you for that, Tom. Papa bless. Moving on. Okay, the last guy here. The two specific guys. Oh, sorry. There's 3. Are just.
Oh my God! How long is this list gonna go?
I don't know, dude. I'm almost done. These 3 guys are kind of linked together. Mr. B-Tongue, Twin Perfect, and Matthew Mitosis are just YouTube analytical guys. Whatever. They make their shit. They're someone who I look at a lot. Just to get ideas, and then, I don't know, just at the end, it's just like all the video games I've ever played, all the anime I've ever watched, and all the manga I've ever read. All that shit. And shout out to Gurren Lagann and Kamina as my personal favorite. That's it. Okay, let's move on.
Pretty good list.
Yeah.
Hippo, you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. I don't really know how to start, but I got a lot of...
At the beginning.
Yeah. I've got a lot of comedy thing, because my comedy is my sole talent, I think. It's my main thing.
Yes, I can confirm that. That's true.
So, yeah, I got a comedy, guys. There's quite a few old things. There's the Goon Show, which is an old radio show, an English radio show where these guys, they just did silly voices, and I liked silly voices, and that's the Goon Show. There's Monty Python, obviously, where for sort of the weird, out there situations and not explaining really anything, and I like all that stuff. Laurel and Hardy. It's got a lot of great slapstick, and it made me appreciate comedy timing. I don't know how well all of this stuff translates into my videos.
Yeah.
But I like it. I want to be like that.
Well, the stuff you're saying so far sounds like it's in your videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Monty Python influence. I just totally see that with your live action stuff, and your editing too.
Yeah, I mean my editing comes mostly from. YouTube poop, and then to I guess then there was Jontron with all his text stuff. I don't know. There's AVGN. I'm just reading off a list now, and then there's Jesse and Devu and Digi, and yeah, I like all your stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah, very recently Devu, because I watched all your videos, and I'm like, you make videos about a singular point, and I like that, and I'm going to try and do that. I think my Puzzle Pirates video was made mostly because I watched all those.
Oh, that's cool.
Whoa.
But Hippo, please give us more Hippo vids.
Yeah.
I really want more sad Hippo. I really liked your April Fool's video because it was more of that Hippo.
That was
I like Hippo more than I like you.
That was the best April
by
Fool's
far,
video,
by far.
I would say.
For the record, I still love everything that gets posted to the Give and Take channel. I still always usually find it hilarious.
Yeah, me too.
Just the stuff that he records in 5 minutes and doesn't give a single fuck about.
By the way, I also like Colt Corona more than I like myself.
Oh, absolutely. Cold Corona got me into vaporwave.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm not kidding about
dude,
that.
That's
by
totally
the way.
true. That's totally true for me as well.
All right,
Yeah.
Jeff, you want to go next?
I guess, yeah. I just finished typing up my list now, pretty much,
Hooray.
so that's perfect. Yeah, so, oh man, I try to take influence from like a broad amount of things, but not consciously, I guess I'd say. Like, I consume a lot of media, and I think that just informs how I create things in general. Like, there are some obvious points of reference that, like, no question, these guys influence how I make stuff. The extra credits. I've been a fan of extra credits for a very long time.
You blew it on the first one.
I blew it. No, it's fine.
Hey, wait, what's wrong? Hey, extra credits was at a time was really great.
Yeah.
And they were part of what
I've
influenced me as well.
Yeah,
they were instrumental to
I-
my thinking on video games today. Like, they were big
Yeah,
deals for a long time.
I really like the extra credits series. I still like it. I don't know if you guys still like it, but that's a matter of taste. And like more to the point.
Hi, my voice is high pitched.
More. I mean,
yeah, he sounds like an idiot.
We really got to make more of these games socially
talk,
conscious
guys.
so no one's
Let me-
feelings get hurt.
Let me
This is how
talk,
it goes,
guys.
Jeff. Force your way in.
Yeah. So, the voice thing is like something people expect at this point.
You don't have
it's
to defend
not
it.
like
we
it's,
believe that you like.
Yeah,
Just reduce it one octave per video.
I don't even mind the voice thing. I just hate their fucking milquetoast, middle of the road, like fucking weak ass politics.
Well, that's like a newer thing. If you watch their older videos, it used to just be they took a fucking game design principle and they explained it, and it was really interesting. And they had
How long has it been since they've done that?
Who cares? We're talking about influence. That's like JonTron's not good anymore, but fucking Nate talked about him being an influence. You know?
Yeah, it's an he's an influence on lots of people. But yeah, so like,
fair.
And like I have
Hitler,
to.
Hitler in his early days, like man, there was a lot we could learn from that guy. You know?
Okay, I have to acknowledge them like straight up because as a direct influence, because Dan's a friend of mine and he actually gave me a lot of advice for video editing that has made my videos better. So right off the bat, I've got to acknowledge him.
Oh, that's great. Next time you see him, you can just punch him in the arm for me. Just give him one, boom.
And then there's like my film school teacher, Paul Jensen, who taught me a lot about narrative structure and film analysis and stuff like that. So those are like the people who I know who have made what I make better. And then I watch a lot of Every Frame of Painting. I've watched all of his videos at least like 4 or 5 times. He's kind of what I want to be in a lot of ways. And in the same respect, Cinefix is... I don't know if you guys...
I do not know them.
So Cinefix is one of the best movie channels probably the best large movie channel and large list channel on the entire internet. Because they do movie analysis from a very interesting, in-depth perspective. They have these videos called 7 Things You Might Not Know, where they just list really interesting and minute trivia details about different movies, how they were made, what influenced the story behind them, different details about the differences in the adaptation from a comic to a movie or what have you. And then they also do these big, broad lists that I totally ripped off the style of in my top 10 anime openings of 2015, where basically they will say, these are the 10 best scenes in movies of all time. And the way that they do it, instead of like listing just 10 scenes, they list like 50. And every time they get to a point, they're like, we could have gone with all of these different things, which are all great. And that makes it, that totally validates, like, your feeling that this scene is particularly good. But we went with this, and then they justify why this thing that does say, in there,
you've already sold me. I really want to watch this channel now.
They are seriously the best movie channel on the internet, and like everything about how I write my lists is derived from that awesomeness.
Yeah, I need something to replace Movie Bob now that I finally unsubbed him. So
yeah.
Oh man,
they are. Let's not dive into that, because that's an example of somebody whose politics.
I just realized I had to add
it. Jumped out the
I need
window.
to bring up that because
I actually don't even
mind
Bob's politics, but whatever.
No, ignoring that, I was just going to say I forgot to bring up the influence of all the people who I swore I would never ever become like. You know?
That's
like a whole different
movie Bob is up there for me.
Yeah,
kind of up there in the same vein, but also I really respect what he does as Spoonie.
Yes,
because I love Spoonie's videos, but how he treats people online, not great.
Oh, that's bullshit. Spoonie doesn't treat people harshly enough. Spoonie should be meaner to his fucking fans.
Jesse, that's he'd get more Patreon money that way for sure.
Look, Jesse's Patreon money is only exclusively because the people who give him money love to be abused.
Every time every time I shit on somebody, it skyrockets.
We just saw this like yesterday with your new video, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. But so there are people I'm definitely like never want to be like. But who I take some things from, like Spoonie and JonTron, don't want to emulate their production schedule at all, but their sense of humor definitely influences me. And, you know, Errant Signal, Mr. B-Tongue, you guys brought them up before. Ego Raptor, Super Bunny Hop's another guy who I try to get to that. I'm very impressed with how George is able to just, like, find the point of something and explore it fully.
You know, to your credit, I'd currently describe you as the Bunny Hop of anime.
I don't think so, because he only does OPs.
I only do OPs.
He's broadening a little bit. You know, he's doing scene analysis.
I think the most similar thing between Jeff and George is the production schedule rate. But
That's
I
a
would
big
say
one. That's a
that
big one.
Bunny Hop is much more about like covering
business models and companies.
like Jeff said, he finds the point of a game, but he does find the point of the whole game. Whereas Jeff is mostly focused on individual levels or individual, OPs or like, certain elements, with exceptions of some of his game reviews.
There's similarities.
I'm trying to do more stuff like that, but it's a lot easier to get out a weekly video while focusing on one specific scene or one specific thing. The biggest praise that I've ever gotten was somebody like comparing me to Every Frame of Painting, which I don't think I deserve at all.
Oh yeah, that's lofty praise.
He's
you can't do any better.
He is the best editor on YouTube. Period. Like I mean,
he's literally
I don't know. Have you seen what Kim Possible, her team can do? They work magic.
Don't fucking say that name. It's fucking show guy. I'm not fucking around here.
So then beyond sort of I guess we're not beyond the sphere of YouTube yet, because I also derive a bit of a lot of stuff that I never ever want to do with my videos from Channel Awesome, just as a general production thing.
I think we can all agree on that. I think we all have them as like our book on what not to do.
A guest person, what are you doing here all of a sudden?
Nate, you took the words out of my mouth.
I know, right?
Just
Jesus Christ.
Say a word, somebody pops in at the end of the review, you try to murder them, that whole thing.
I swear, I see even good channels do that some. Okay, go on.
Yeah, like, I mean, Cat Icarus does that a lot of the time, but so Channel Awesome in general, there's a lot of stuff I would never fucking do. Integrating a narrative into my videos, no, not fucking happening. I'm sorry, Linkara, no.
Now I'll
not
give you
waste.
Why are you apologizing to Linkara?
I don't know. He doesn't deserve any apologies whatsoever.
Exactly.
I like the idea of doing a narrative in a single video.
If you could do it easily,
but over
quickly,
a bunch of
Jesse.
videos,
Jesse does it with every video he puts out as part of a continuing narrative.
But
pretty much all the time.
But Jesse integrates it into his script instead of having like a skit on the side where it's like, now I'm on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise.
And Jeff, if the video is about a narrative, then sure. And you know, it uses like a review or whatever as sort of like a framework for the narrative. Yeah, but if you're just tacking on a narrative onto the outskirts of a video that is supposed to be a paragraph
every single
review.
video does.
Yeah, Jesse does. Jesse, I think, does what Spoonie kind of tried to do, but a lot more efficiently and just better integrated.
Spoonie puts these like big teasers at the end of his videos, and then he won't make another one for like 2 years.
Yeah,
it sucks. But like whereas Jesse, it just has a man losing his mind. Yeah, I gotta keep powering through. So there was one person on Channel Awesome who did influence me in a very positive way. And how shut the fuck up!
Buttholes and
yeah. So in how I talk about anime and how I understand it, Yezu Otaku, Jacob Chapman now working for ANN, who was the only good anime reviewer doing video anime reviews on the internet for like a couple years. And like a lot of what started getting me thinking about anime was
it was slim pickings back in the day, Digi.
Yeah, it was very slim pickings. And like
if you were watching video,
watching her videos kind of got me hungry for that kind of thought about anime and made me want to do that. And I don't think that she's right about a lot of stuff, or he is right about a lot of stuff.
Wrong.
But
wait, is Jess Otaku a man now?
Yes,
that's
yeah.
How about that?
So anyway,
no,
I don't agree. I don't agree with a lot of his criticism of stuff, but. For instance, the fact that he did those big top lists of the top 10 anime OPs of every year is totally where I got the idea for what's in an OP.
Yeah.
Just talking about OPs, I was like, there is not enough of that on the internet. I am going to do that. So if that is a very obvious point of reference. Now finally, I can break away into people in text who influenced me.
We gotta speed it up a little bit.
Quick.
Okay, I'll try to speed it up a little, or a lot. Sean Baby, one of my favorite writers on the whole internet, definitely informed my sense of humor quite a lot. Pitchfork, who's a guy who wrote for SocksMakePeopleSexy.net, which
not Pitchfork.com.
Not
Life
Pitchfork.
Of Pablo 9 out of 10. Yeah, I remember that.
Life of Pablo 9 out of 10.com. Yeah, not that.
Holy shit! You should get that domain. Okay.
I should. Yeah. So definitely not them. But yeah. So he did these epic reviews of the entire Final Fantasy series that I really appreciated. Okay. Moving forward, faster pace.
Thank
you.
Get it done.
There's
just read all the names. Just read them off your list.
Writers: Christopher Moore, Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett. All informed my sense of humor and sort of how I string ideas together. Very good writers. Highly recommend you read their stuff if you want to do more stuff. Forgot Your Movie Sucks. Obvious reasons Your Movie Sucks is great. Monty Python, Abbott and Costello, Justin Roiland, Dan Harmon, James Roday.
You should have got the music that they play at the Academy Awards. When
I'm feeling this fucking hook around my neck as I'm trying to get through this. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are movie creators and actors and who inform how I make stuff. Also, Team 4-Star kind of informs some of my sense of humor and delivery and whatnot.
Sure.
And
all right, I'm cutting you off. I'm fucking bored of listening to you.
Okay, one more. One more. The Best Friends play, they kind of gave me a lot of how I want to structure podcasts, because they do podcasts without crazy arguments and people talking over each other.
That standard?
It's terrible. Go listen to the Best Friend cast instead.
We're not friends here.
I doubt it's any good.
Yeah, we're
this
not
is
afraid.
this is the best like group of people who all want to murder each other.
Yes.
We're the best
All
enemies
right,
podcast.
Ben Saint, let's get an artist
fuck.
talking about art shit now.
Cog and a half. All right. Well, my list is pretty short. As an artist, I think my two major influences are Brian Lee O'Malley, the Scott Pilgrim guy.
Ah, yes.
And Eiichiro Oda, the One Piece guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at my own art, it really looks like both of them to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Vincent
Like if you
reminds me a lot
combined
of
Sanji.
yeah, kind of Sanji.
He kind of looks like Sanji. I don't
What
know, the
about
way I
Andrew
frame-
Hussey?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Andrew Hussey. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no like direct. Eat a dick. Hey, everyone.
Hey, at least Jesse's
everyone.
gotten to the point of knowing who Andrew Hussey is.
true, that's true.
Like we've gotten him that
Friends,
far.
friends, and listeners. Hear me.
Once you're done
anyone
going
that
to
hasn't read
patreon.com/bensaint, then go
everyone
to-
who hasn't read Homestuck should be put through a fucking meat grinder. That's what I
I'm
think.
Homestuck, and I'm the biggest idiot ever, dude.
That's what Andrew Hussey. That's his catchphrase.
That is a pretty accurate. That is a pretty accurate parody, honestly. Okay.
What else you got then?
I mean, yeah, there's art wise, definitely Brian Lee O'Malley and Eiichiro Oda. Hussey, I wouldn't. There's no like direct influence other than that. What he was making and the rate at which he was made. It really made me want to do something like that. I wouldn't call it a direct influence, but Bakuman, the manga about a bunch of hot-blooded shonen trying to become great manga artists.
Yeah.
Again, not so much a direct influence, but like a big pushed me into wanting to do that with my life. I think that's it.
Well, that was pretty simple.
And I will. So one more thing: the Vapors story is largely inspired by Watamote because, like that, it's just about a young person being really shitty, and that's the whole story, and that's what Vapors is about too.
I forgot Tim Schafer and Hideo Kojima. Tim Schafer and Hideo Kojima are on my list.
I got three names.
I'm
I've sort
such
of
an
say them
asshole.
quick. I got storytelling inspiration, influence from Eiichiro Oda, Okami, and Dark Souls. And I'm not going to elaborate because I'm not very good at telling stories.
Okay, cool.
All right, well, Ben didn't give us enough art stuff, so Tom, now it's your turn.
All right. Yeah, it's funny because like originally I just had a note. I said YouTube. I don't know sequelitis. I don't care. Then I remembered to have another YouTube channel that I actually care about. So like reviews, fuck it, whatever. I watched sequelitis and then I made a horse one, and then it all devolved from there. But Rebel Pixels, like I got the idea for that just because I watched way too much technology stuff. Like I've read Engadget daily for I think 12 years now, so like I know too much about that shit. But I watched the shit out of MKBHD, who does like ridiculously good tech videos. Linus Tech Tips, another one. And then the idea for half of Rebel Pickles came from a guy on Tumblr called
Rebel Pickles.
Rebel Pickles. That's what I call my dick. No,
I would have thought that's what you call your balls, because there's two of them.
What the fuck, Nate? Balls don't look like pickles.
Oh wait, never
What's
mind.
wrong with your balls?
but it's plural, goddammit. Okay, maybe the whole set of three you could call the Rebel Pixels. The Rebel Pixels, yeah.
Oh my god! Wow.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here today.
All right, so continue.
No, so half of Rebel Pixels came from a guy called Friendon. He's on Tumblr. He reviewed like Cintiq alternatives, and that's kind of where I found out that those even existed. And as a poor person, I was initially attracted to the idea of like getting something expensive for less money. So, but he just does text reviews, and text is boring. So I was like, if I do videos about these, I'll make $1 million. And I was completely wrong, but it's still fun. And then the other half came from this guy, Preston Smiles. He does like a lot of motivational kind of videos, and I wanted to kind of do something like that with an artist focus, I guess, because I'm like super depressed and hate myself and hate everything I make. So I'm like, maybe if I go on this journey, I can not hate myself. So that's kind of, I just blended those two together, and that's where Rebel Pixels came from. And also, I made a note of Roberto Blake, who I hate. I don't want Rebel Pixels to ever become as bad as that channel.
Who's that?
He's a guy who makes like 2 videos a day, and he just sits in front of a camera. He's like, hey everybody, Rebel Blake here, helping you create something awesome today. And today, I want to talk.
And how does he do that?
He does it with like no effort. There's one take, and he has like 80,000 subscribers. He got 70,000 last year. I don't understand why. And if I see him in public, I'm gonna kill him.
No, he has like the same amount you have on Tommy Oliver.
Yeah, but he got
like
that in a
55,000.
just talking in front of a camera with no script, and he has fucking Sword Art Online.
But nobody watches his videos.
That's the whole thing.
Funny
He
part
gets
about
subscribers.
it.
Like, it's really weird how people do that. If you want to get subscribers really quick, just make like 5 videos a week, and you'll get tons of people clicking on them, but no one watches your other shit because you just like flood your feed, and then nobody cares.
You
about
burn
it
them out.
Yeah,
now, Tom, I don't know if I missed this, Tom, but are there any more specific influences on like Sorceress Lost? Did I miss that?
No, I haven't gotten to that
not
yet.
miss that.
Because like this is just like the YouTube.
Yes,
shit.
stupid.
I'm sorry, I thought he was wrapping up. I thought he was wrapping up. My bad.
No, for like the artistic side, like I mean, my visual style I feel is definitely directly influenced a lot from Bill Watterson of Calvin and Hobbes fame. I've read that comic religiously ever since like 3rd grade, and it's like my favorite thing ever. It was the first comic I ever really got into, because he has like kind of like the really cartoony features, like the thick outlines, and then like I really fell in love with watercolor from his color work. Bruce Timm is a huge influence. He did like the DC animated universe, like the Batman cartoon from the 90s and Justice League and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like I like his really like simplistic kind of blocky figures. Like this main guy Orin in Sorceress Lost, which I haven't seen much. His jawline is like a square, just like Superman. So like I'm totally just aping that. And like anime in general, but the first one, like because I watched like Pokemon and shit as a little kid, obviously, and that was my first exposure to anime. But the first anime or like manga that I thought was like legitimately beautiful was when I watched Cardcaptor Sakura, and then later got Chobits.
Yes.
Clamp blew my fucking mind into a million pieces.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like to this day, I still like love Clamp. So
I never would have imagined you were like influenced by Clamp. Like your style does not at all remind me of Clamp.
I mean,
that's interesting.
Like,
well, you never know.
Like I think like the thing that I took from them was like the really big expressive eyes. Like that's
Clamp.
like the one thing I really
Clamp.
latched onto.
It's like a Pokemon. Clamp.
Jesse is obviously not familiar with the work of Clamp.
It's like the evolved form of Clannad.
Testicles.
Wouldn't Clannad be the evolved form? Whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Clannad
Clamp-
would be the evolved form.
Clamp is the baby.
Yeah, Clamp is the Pichu.
Clannad has even bigger eyes
yeah.
than Clamp, so yeah, Clannad would be the evolved form.
Eingrad would be the final evolution.
Okay, so if Clannad is a crab with testicles, then what is Clamp as the baby version?
Clamp is a crab with one testicle. and his testicle looks like a pickle.
And then,
Anything else?
The last thing, I mean, I just like got a note for like lifestyle / personality, because like a lot of artists, like I don't really take much like visually or like aesthetically from their work, but just like how they work, I was really influenced by. Scott McCloud, who wrote Understanding Comics, is like.
Is he related to Fox McCloud?
No.
Yeah, he is.
No? Okay.
He's the
He's
same.
actually
same guy.
that's just his persona. But like he did like a really great book called Understanding Comics. It's a comic book deconstructing how comics work, and he did this like when he was like in his mid-20s, so he's like a fucking genius.
Oh, Ben has this manga about drawing manga that is awesome as well.
Yeah, we
remember
when we were you
Oh,
were
yeah,
showing
we were
me that
looking at
together.
that.
When we were
Yeah,
hanging
that's
out.
right.
That was like.
Oh, the shoujo manga
Yeah.
artists. Oh wait, I have it right here. Wait,
Awesome.
I still need to read that book. I was really intrigued by it.
It's the coolest.
It is Shoujo Beats Manga Artist Academy, and it follows the life of Hitomi, who is this retarded panda who wants to be a shoujo manga artist.
What?
And so
It is.
no,
It's amazing.
I'm fucking
Listen,
serious.
listen.
And then this guy, Mr. Manga Star, he rockets out of the sky and is like, I'm here to show you how to become a shoujo manga artist with hot-blooded passion. And she's like, yay, but I'm so stupid, I can't do anything. And he just like beats her. And
he seriously beats the shit out of her many
he
times.
seriously beats the shit out of her and like sends her off to train with like other like famous shoujo manga artists who like give instructional. It's like an instructional book. And there's like, they talk about their techniques for various things. And then she'll come back and he'll be like, Mr. Mangastar will be like, so, Hitomi, what did you learn from fucking, Yukako Isaka? And she'll be like, I learned, oops, I forgot, haha. And he'll just fucking beat the shit out of her and then send her to another one.
I want to make a quick addendum. Everything I learned from Mr. Mangastar. Forget all that other stuff. This is a guy.
And I won't spoil the ending, but there is a heartfelt twist ending.
Oh, man, I don't even know what that is.
Totally serious. Yeah, there is a
I need to
heartfelt
finish
twist
this
ending
book.
that really recontextualizes the whole thing.
Awesome.
I won't spoil it.
All right,
yeah.
so Tom, is that
Shoujo Beats Manga Artist Academy? Go find it.
Tom? Is that all of your
I have
influences?
two more. That there's M. Strange. He's a YouTuber, and he made 3 animated feature films by himself over the course of
That
like
sounds
5
like a
years.
cool rap name, M. Strange.
He does do really horrible music as well.
Awesome.
So if you ever want to check that out. But I just got really, because before I watched him, because I found him like 2006 when YouTube like still didn't really exist, and like they had like the featured videos. Do you remember those when they used to have like featured videos on the front page? He had a trailer for his first movie on there, and it blew my mind to a million fucking pieces.
First movie? He makes movies?
He made 3 animated feature films by himself.
Whoa!
Over the course of 5
Holy
years.
shit.
Yeah, the first one
was
called...
who's this? Who are you talking about?
Yeah, Jesus
it was
Christ.
insane.
What a champ.
Who's this?
M. Strange. You can just search, he's just youtube.com.
Tom has done a review of one of his films. I don't think anybody watches your videos as much as I do, but I'm well aware of M. Strange as a guy who you even worked with at a time, right?
Yeah, we talked a lot. I did help him do some animation for. He did a music video for Mindless Self-Indulgence, and I did animation for him
cool.
on that.
Whoa,
Weird.
what the fuck? I never heard about that.
Yeah, Tom has worked on an MSI music video.
I do remember you. I do vaguely remember your review of that guy.
Yeah,
though.
he's super cool. He's like a total weirdo.
Did you fully disclose that you have affiliations with him?
Yeah.
Non-disclosure?
Collusion! Influenced by people you know.
So,
that's not allowed.
Tom, is that it?
And then also this guy Alec Longstreth. He does like really personal, like slice of life zine kind of comics things. Like he'll like bind and photocopy all of them like in his house and then ship them out to people. And
has he heard of the internet?
He has, but it's
okay,
just like
just checking.
There's like a weird like underground indie scene where they still like just do that like hardcore like old school way of doing things.
That's cool.
He just like his thing is like he just works on comics every day. He's like. He's done it. He's done comics for like 10 years. He's done comics every day that entire time, except for like 3 days he missed them. Because like I used to watch this podcast that like they interviewed all these like indie guys, and I was like super into him. And he's like, this is the coolest guy. He's super like positive and happy and shit. And I met him at a convention. He was super chill. We talked for like half an hour. So yeah.
Yeah,
sounds like a hero.
So I think Jesse should go last, and I believe I should go second last. Then,
I'm
right?
going.
Oh, I forgot you
no,
haven't gone, did you? Oh my gosh.
You're next, Devu.
All right, cool. I forgot about you.
Stop trying to co-opt my hosting duties. I know what order everybody's going in.
All right, well, let's see. My influences are here. The 2 that are in this chat, in this call, is Digibro and Jesse Wood, because they both got me into making videos and stuff. Let's see, James Rolfe, for obvious reasons.
Hang on, Devu. I just want to ask, when did you start making videos if they got you into it?
Well, I first started making videos in 2008, but they were the ones really who made me want to do it as a career thing. Because
just because you're a great editor, better than me, and it makes me
Whoa, hold on. Seriously? Maybe I'm
think
faster than you. I guess, like, edits per minute, I'm better than you. But I don't think I have as much polish as you do. And you have, like, you didn't make videos at all until, like, 2013.
But
whatever. I guess edits per minute, I'm pretty high. Whatever. But yeah, I have.
Well, anyway, I was just interested.
Yeah, so yeah, it was really Digibro and Digi and Jesse. Oh man, I said his last name. Beep beep beep. Them doing their early Horsecast episodes, constantly bitching about doing YouTube, and I was like, those are the kind of problems I want to have. I'm drawn to challenge.
Yeah.
And James Rolfe, not just for the idea of making videos, but also a lot of his writing style. I think he's like the best at conveying simple ideas, conveying obtuse ideas very simply. My brother, who's my #1 comedic influence, because he's a very funny person, and we always iron out one another's comedy.
And I assume he's a younger brother.
Yeah, he's 3 years younger, 3 inches taller. Trey Parker and Matt Stone was early into me getting inspired to, like... I always knew that art was going to be my career, but those guys lit a fire under my ass, kind of, because I heard about them constantly bitching about how hard it was, and it was really inspiring, you know? And South Park in general was a big influence for me. It was like my awakening to more complex ideas, you know? Rush Limbaugh... I take a lot of influence from him on how to convey ideas, how to present yourself as a person.
Oh wow, did not expect that one. Okay.
How to like be a personality, how to communicate with an audience to make the audience feel like you're talking to them.
Okay.
His persona.
How to inspire people to kill everybody that you don't like.
How to be a persona. Like his persona is very.
He's got a persona, that's for sure.
Is very similar to like an. Is very
he
similar
also
to
sounds like a Pokemon.
Is very similar to like an internet persona.
Wasn't Rush Limbaugh the villain in Biker Mice from Mars?
I don't know what that is.
Idea.
You know what?
No.
He could actually be, and I would have no idea.
No, sorry. He was like a fish monster named Limburger. I think it might have been like Rush Limburger.
Okay.
It might have been a pun. I don't know.
And also, like,
All
his
right,
persona is very internet-like. Like, Maddox and Jimquisition even kind of remind me in different ways, although I think Rush is a lot more interesting and fun than Jimquisition, but whatever. That kind of stuff. I would say,
sucks.
I would say I think Rush Limbaugh has had more influence on me than any other one individual person who I don't personally know.
I'm
recording a podcast. What is it?
Look, man. Look, here's the problem.
Explains a lot of the arguments we've had.
No, not that. But look, here's the problem. I can't recommend his show because it's a radio show. It's an hour and a half of show and an hour and a half of commercials. It's unlistenable. If he just released a 1 hour podcast once a week, everyone I know would be super into it. He's really funny. It's just that the format of his show is dated and terrible. But the content is great. Just take my word for it.
Okay, I'll believe.
Because I used to have a blue-collar job, so I was able to listen to that. Hiroyuki Imaishi, the way he animates the universe is the way I wish the universe could be. Movie Bob was really the beginning of me understanding the idea of like an intellectual thesis on things. Very interesting in that regard. And now for a long time he's also been my counter influence of who I don't want to be. But I agree with his politics. I think that everyone is a fat neckbeard and everyone should be ashamed for it except for me. I should get fat and have a neckbeard and be totally fine about it. Okay. Popeye also portrays the world. Not really the character so much as just the show.
Talking about the character or the show?
Mostly the show.
No, the character himself, the real live Popeye.
What the fuck is going on in here right now?
No, mostly the show. It also, when I first watched Kill La Kill, really, it reminded me of Popeye. The way it like abstracts the world in this really over-the-top, energetic way. I thought that was really fun. I want the world to be like that. It's just a cool, nice escapism that really is really nice and fun, and everything bounces.
Wow, this is a fascinating list so far.
Let's see.
I knew all this was coming too because I've seen his chart.
This is exactly the kind of list I would expect from Taboo.
All right.
I love it.
The Little Rascals, which was, I think its original title was Our Gang. That's a really cool thing. That's an old film serial, black and white series thing, and I think it got me into like long, protracted comedy because at the time
hang on,
it felt
are you talking about the
long.
show or like there was a movie Little Rascals that was in color?
Right, I'm talking about the show. Yeah, the little film series thing. I thought like because the situations are kind of long and protracted, and I think that gave me a taste for that kind of stuff. The Marx Brothers, obviously, that got me into like slapstick and all that stuff. I have economic science written here because that really portrays the world in a way that makes a lot of sense to me.
Economic science was a big influence.
Yeah, specifically,
that's a book.
Well, there's that one book, Basic Economics with Thomas Sowell, which I was talking about. Whatever, a more interesting one was an episode of Planet Earth about rainforests, and it shows this tree falling and how all the different plants try to get some sunlight, and I was like, that's what the world is like. There's like
Very
stuff
specific.
out there, like whether it be money or like success or like friendship, there's always like a source of it, and everyone rushes to get it. And that a big tree that tries to become huge is going to have a harder time than a little tree that tries to
describing specific moments when he realized
to list a tree that fell over as one of your key artistic influences.
He gets it. He knows
like that's
exactly
why
what
I guess that was part of why I was like, I don't have to become a millionaire
God.
doing something huge. I could be like a thousandaire making YouTube videos, and I will be more happy than a guy trying to get all this stuff.
No, I totally am with you on that sentiment.
Ben
Rush
is a big
Rush
advocate of being
Limbaugh.
dirt poor. He lives that lifestyle and he loves everything about it, right, Ben?
I love being dirt poor. I want to make as little money as possible for me to survive on no work. If I can do that, then I've achieved everything I want.
All right.
Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, big influence on my slapstick sensibilities. I love that. Although
is that the chili dog one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I rewatched some of it because I was trying to get a clip of it for my one of my recent videos, and it doesn't hold up that well. But man, very inspiring to me. Daft Punk, because I don't know, maybe I have latent autism, so I was really into them when I was 14.
Have they inspired you to stay up all night to get lucky?
I don't know.
I don't know if that was a joke or anything, but
that was a great reference.
Roger Vanderweed, the other YouTuber who really influenced me, Roger Vanderweed, who introduced me to the concept of an analysis as distinct from a review, although he didn't introduce me to the word analysis. That's what Digibro did, but he really got me into the idea
Wait, sorry, Digi taught you the word analysis?
Well, I knew the word analysis, but I never really thought of it as the word to use to describe what we do.
Okay.
Roger Vanderweed just thinks of it as theories or something. He doesn't really know what word to use. Because English isn't his first language, his writing sucks, his animation sucks, his voice acting sucks. He really is just bad at everything.
Everything sucks about this guy, but he's one of my biggest influences.
He's awesome. He definitely does more good than anyone else who sucks that much.
Sucks,
he really is amazing. Awesome. I love his thought process, the way he thinks. Like he can make a blog about him moving out of his family's house and how everyone was fighting over the furniture. And it was fascinating. I was on the edge of my seat the way he wrote it, even though every sentence had a typo.
Devu, I've thought about it a lot because I went and watched Sonic Dissected, and I didn't like it, but upon further reflection, I really think that where it failed for me was in not providing any context for someone who doesn't know the Sonic games to enjoy.
I didn't know
their
the Sonic
thoughts
games
about
that much, but now I practically know. I can probably recite all of the main games in order thanks to his videos. Very interesting.
Like a Mr. B-Tongue video, like his video about Django. I can enjoy that video without having seen Django. I cannot enjoy Sonic Dissected without having played
Sonic. To Sonic Dissected. You didn't watch it, so that might make it harder to follow.
In regards to that Mr. B-Tongue, I got into Mass Effect because I watched Mr. B-Tongue's videos over and over and over and over again, and now I'm
Mr. B-Tongue's been a really big influence too, because I have there was like a whole. There was like a summer where I just was at work playing his videos like every day to the point that I was starting to almost trying to imitate, obviously not well, imitate his writing style. But yeah, Roger Vanderweed, I love his train of thought. Every time I think, this guy is just so bad and inconsistent, but then he comes out with a video that blows my mind. So yeah, I just he recently came out with a 40-minute video analyzing his own 20-minute parody animation. And just hearing his thought process
So what you're telling me is, even though he sucks in every way, he's the best guy ever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So like you.
Yeah.
Like
let's
me.
see
That's
here.
right.
Mr. Bean, big influence on just like more comedic sensibilities. More protracted situations. Didn't influence me on talking though. I still talked way too much. And
how far through?
I got 3 more items left. Steve from Blue's Clues. Big influence on me.
I just want to point out, Devu, you were giving me shit in the chat, in the text chat for talking too much. I got 3 items left to go.
Steve from Blue's Clues, definitely the biggest influence on my persona, the way he talks, presents himself.
Why would you pick him?
It wasn't intentional at all. You see, my persona comes from these really unwatchable sketch comedies I did with my brother, and that was sort of a parody of like kids show hosts. But I realized it was just a parody of Steve from Blue's Clues. So that whole sort of weird dozing off personality, really like that. Take a lot of influence from food, because if I have to make a metaphor for something, I'll use food.
Wait. In what? Like, you want to act like food? You wanna be
for example, a couple of weeks ago...
Do you have a food sona?
Well, let's see. A few weeks ago, Digi and Jesse were making rap songs together, and I was like, I want to get on the action. I want to make a beat. What's something I can make? Hamburgers. And I made a beat about hamburgers, right? So I just always use hamburgers for
big
metaphors.
influence on my artistic.
I've seen that before. You've listed food as a big influence. I mean,
all of this was on his chart. Every single one of these was on the
I'm having flashbacks now to it.
I remember, and I thought it was playing real fast and loose with the concept of an artistic influence.
Me and Ben discussed it. We thought Devu has to eat food to live. Without it, he would die. He needs to be allowed to make stuff. Obviously, there's some connection there, but you're saying... Okay.
And the last influence is video games, in the specific way of it's a way to systemize life. I wonder what's up with all those business guys who like making money even if they don't like spending it. Oh, it's like an MMO. What is up with people who want to start a family? Oh, it's like a simulation game. So I just look at through video games as the lens to process the variables of life and come to an understanding. And those are my influences.
I think it's more that those games just tap into the kind of desires in humans that make us want to do.
It just gives me an understanding.
That you mentioned. So I think you have the chain of which resembles which reverse.
But not whatever.
I disagree.
All right, moving on.
I'm just saying.
All right, Jesse, do you want to go next or should I go next?
Oh man, can anyone follow Devu?
Yeah, damn.
Fucking,
it's tough.
Rush Limbaugh, a tree falling down, economic science, and Popeye.
Look, man, everyone who says anything you've ever heard about Rush Limbaugh
These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect Devu.
Look, man, I gotta say this. Anyone who's ever said anything about Rush Limbaugh is someone competing for his time slots. They're not going to represent him properly. It's just that you can't listen to his show because it's a bad format.
I have listened to Rush Limbaugh before, and he does speak very well.
We're not here to question your influences.
All right, Jesse, do you want to go next or should I go next?
Yeah, I guess I'll go next.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I have influences.
At least one. I'd like to hear it.
What's happening?
It's just
Jesse, say your goddamn influences.
I don't fucking know these guys.
You like who is it? The Hulk, your favorite wrestler.
I know.
You like. You love Shredder from
Jesse,
Ninja
you
Turtles.
made an enormous chart.
I know. I'm looking at it right now. As a matter of fact,
I know you listed a bunch of influence at the end of Horseshoe.
Yeah, I did. I put them all. I put a bunch of my.
That was a
influences
really cool
in the
thing.
credits.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
now Jesse's just looking at this chart and
God
is like,
damn it.
what the fuck?
It's more like the chart is looking at me. That's what's going on right now. It's going through me.
Like in every one of Jesse's videos, he dumps references to stuff that he loves in all of them, and now he's not able to fucking articulate it. We could all do a better job. Let's go right now. Donatello from Ninja Turtles.
No. Yeah, Donatello.
I like that that's what you jumped to.
Of course.
Like, I thought you were going to be
Donatello,
legit.
Commander Shepard, Vegeta, Goofy.
There you go.
Helga from Hey Arnold taught you the meaning of love.
Yeah, definitely all my fucking waifus and daughterus are on there.
They're influential.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about this lately, or I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
Is that there's a disconnect, I feel, between how my viewers view me and how I view myself, because they all view me as, like, a reviewer, but I don't see myself as... Like, if I put the word review on a video, it's not really a review, it's usually just retardation.
I do not see you as a reviewer anymore.
Like, none of my influences are reviewers or critics. Like, they're all, like, stand-up comedians or professional wrestlers or musicians or, like, fictional characters.
Except for, like, AVGN. Is like
That's
the
true.
closest
AVGN
one.
is a pretty good... And, like, Sean Baby was a big influence on my writing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the greatest writer on the whole internet, pretty much.
Who is Sean Baby?
Sean Baby used to write for EGM, and now he writes for Cracked. And he writes pretty much the funniest things that you could possibly imagine.
He has like the most out there descriptions of shit. Like
my favorite analogy that I've read of his lately is just like the writer of this show is the reason that they don't allow pregnant entrants in belly flop competitions.
Oh, he's one of these guys. Okay,
No, he is that guy.
Okay,
he invented that on the internet.
I think his Twitter says that he invented being funny on the internet.
Yeah, and it's kind of true. His Tumblr is Liartown USA, where he just posts the best photoshops in the history of the world. Like, for instance, the What? How? Book of Horse Arson. Or
one of my favorites. Enough about Sean Baby, though. We gotta get Jesse has a lot of influences.
No, fuck that. I want to talk about Sean Baby.
Sean Baby's the god.
One of my favorites was he was describing the GameCube controller, and he described it as having been vomited by a moon octopus.
By the way, I went to his website just now, and I see that on it is a advertisement for a make-it-yourself fuckable Easter fleshlight made out of cake batter.
Yep.
I feel as though I've
It's
probably
cake
read.
frosting, I meant.
Yeah,
I think I've probably read a bunch of his stuff if he writes for Cracked, because there's a time where I read like every Cracked article, and I definitely remember that some of them had amazing articles.
He is the funniest guy on Cracked. Period. That quote that I just gave you was from one of his Cracked articles. Oh god, he also was just like, this guy's such a liar. It's like fucking John Travolta telling the guy on his dick that he's not gay. And then like he brings up John Travolta like 10 other times in that article. It's just like, it's like John Travolta saying he genuinely doesn't know the gender of the guy on the other side of the hole in the men's room.
Okay, this guy rules, obviously.
Yeah, this is all related to these are all metaphors related to how bad Superman is at hiding his identity from Lois Lane. And how Lois Lane's the worst fucking human being in the world. It's like 20 people died because you wanted to build a giant electromagnet to trap Superman, you fucking cunt. Oh god, and just he makes the funniest photoshops. My favorite one that I remember is a book that's Loud and Aloud, one bisexual man's struggle with society's acceptance of and total indifference to his lifestyle.
Alright, enough damn Shaw, baby. Jesse, continue your
influence. So now I'm looking at my little influence map. I'll go into like the comedians corner. Doug Stanhope is a big influence. I think you can probably see that if you watch him. His whole shtick is that he's a drunken slob, but also occasionally profound.
Yeah. That sounds like you.
And then Norm Macdonald, who is like totally irreverent and like complete retardation. And then George Carlin is obviously the biggest one. And the biggest thing about George Carlin that influences me is that
he's fucking dead.
Yeah, he's fucking dead.
To aspire to that,
my dream in life. Like, George knew like when to be smart, but he also knew that there was a place for being completely retarded. Like, he's famous for like saying profound things and being like the thinking man's comedian. But my favorite George Carlin bit is the one where he comes up with like a new sports cheer, and he goes, "This is a new sports cheer that you can say at like a football game." Rat shit, bat shit, dirty old twat. 69 assholes tied in a knot. Hooray! Lizard shit, fuck! It's just completely stupid, and it's like, and it's sandwiched between all this like really intelligent social commentary, and then it's just hooray, lizard shit, fuck.
Yeah,
I mean,
you gotta love how that. I mean, that you're so right that like that kind of completely retarded stuff juxtaposed against brilliance is like, man, it's such a potent potion you got there. It's too strong of a potion for me.
I think the 7 words you can't say on television is one of the single greatest just speeches of all time. Not even bits of stand-up comedy.
I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
I'm a huge fan of Carlin's thing about time. It's from like when he was really young, and he does this speech about how like time doesn't make any sense as a concept.
I love the planet.
It's like the most
is fine,
philosophical
the people
humor
are
I've ever heard.
Anytime he talks about religion, it's just incredible.
I think with Jesse, like, if I could just, compliment you for how Carlin-like you are, because I think you totally nail, like, his delivery of, like, rants, where it's, like, he really does sound angry, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
Like, he comes off as, like, he definitely legitimately cares about this. He's never, like, flippant about it. He's like, I can't fucking believe I live in this fucking world, but it's still hilarious.
The man was a poet,
and then you would see like interviews with him, like sort of off stage and out of character, and he's like a totally chill guy, and he, like he saves it for his performance, like all that.
Like I think one of the most Carlin-esque jokes that I remember from you that is the one that nobody laughs at because it was too like obtuse. But at the start of the Hello Kitty review, where you just do this like it sounds like you're talking normally, but you just make these name associations, and it's like a whole minute of you just saying names that create this weird train of thought to connect back to Hello Kitty.
Yeah, it just sounds like nonsense.
Yeah, but when you if you actually pay attention to it, then it all has a logical thread to it.
One of his later ones, like later in his life, his Modern Man bit, which
that's the one that I was thinking of.
Isn't even comedy. It's not even a joke.
Right.
It's just a poem that he wrote, but because he's George Carlin, he can do that on a comedy special, and just like it's cool as shit. And
I feel like whenever you do your like, whenever you describe yourself, it's very much like that bit where you're like, I'm the old school fool with that old school cool.
It's that mix of Carlin and WWE
and
wrestler dudes,
Right.
Yeah. The WWE wrestlers, like, or any wrestlers, like, wrestlers are, like, probably my primary influence on my comedy and my persona or whatever, my performances, wrestling promos. And, I was thinking about this, too, because I made that fuck off video where I was railing against that shitty commenter.
Right.
And, like, the thought process behind that video was, I've been thinking for a while that it would be fun to rail on shitty commenters in the video, and I got a comment that was really shitty, so I just said, I'm gonna cut a promo on this guy, and it'll be funny. So I did that, but, like, so many of the commenters were like, I don't understand why you care why it bothers you so much. Like, they think that I'm, like, that I'm sitting in the shower like a rape victim about my commenters and, like, really stewing about this, when in reality, what it is I think I enjoy having an enemy that I can cut a promo on, and it's just fun. Like it was fun to rail on that guy, like because that's where my influences is perfect. Like Roddy Piper would like watch anyone who like if people don't understand like what I'm doing when I cut promos on people or rail against commentators, just watch like any Roddy Piper promo where he's just like insulting people in hilarious ways and going really off the rails.
Jesse, if I had watched wrestling as a child, would I better understand what you're doing when you cut promos? Because when you say things like this, it makes me think that maybe I don't know what Jesse's actually going for.
Well, I think people take my anger like way too seriously.
I think. I mean, what you're saying right now is telling me that I do. But like, shit, I couldn't tell that you weren't serious.
I don't want to know. I do not want to know whether or not Jesse's actually angry.
When
I
Jesse
enjoy
started
figuring
up
it out.
the Drowning in Kayfabe channel, like, because I'd never known anything about wrestling, and then like as Jesse taught me about wrestling by like giving these long speeches about it, it was like everything immediately made sense to me about Jesse's persona. Like every wrestling video I have ever watched that Jesse has sent me has made me go, "Oh my god, you did this!"
Yeah,
like this is
like,
something that you've been trying to do.
Like,
I mean, the
don't get me
horseshoe
wrong.
finale is literally the fucking CM Punk pipe bomb made into a film. You know, it's
like don't get me wrong. I am serious in the sense that like dumb comments annoy me. These armchair psychologists on my comment section really do annoy me, but I blow it up to 11. That's like what that's what performance is all about.
Like, that it's fun because I get this complaint too, where people are like, "You can't take criticism or stuff." When I respond to criticism, and it's like, no, it's more that it's really interesting to me to respond. Like, you know, so it's like someone left a comment on your video and you then made an art piece out of that comment in a way.
Exactly.
You know, it's
the
like when I was
criticism
growing
I can't
up, I
take,
never
I just
got.
delete.
Right. When I was growing up, I didn't get WWE at all. I thought it was gay, and then I learned it was also for Jesse. So you know, what does that say about him?
It says that I'm super gay.
Yeah.
But guys like, I don't know what you thought would happen if you thought you would end bad comments forever. No, I thought I would make fun of a stupid guy and it would be awesome and hilarious and cool, which it was.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was surprised that I ended up watching the full 15 minutes of that video. When I started, I was like, it's going to be one of those videos. And then I watched the whole thing. I was like, it was one of those
It's
videos.
pretty riveting.
Yeah,
it's riveting
I
stuff.
don't think I've ever stopped watching a Jesse video halfway through.
It's
I
hypnotic.
Have had to skip through some
I don't
of,
know,
like,
Bloody
the
Dead
apple
Man, I'm
drinking
going to have
one.
to take a while to get through.
I couldn't watch Bloody Dead Man.
I did not finish Bloody Dead Man because I stopped to go do something else in the middle of it because the last episode of Erased came out and I had to watch it. I didn't get back
I can't blame anyone for not finishing Bloody Dead Man, but at the same time, I'm really proud that I made Bloody Dead Man.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't get me wrong. I was laughing consistently through Bloody Dead Man, but it was around the part where like you started up the songs and everything, and I was just like, or when you were in that girl's live stream for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, you got further than me.
That video fucking sucked, Jesse.
You know what?
Shame for making
you all
that
suck
piece of
for not
trash.
watching it, and I take back what I said. I don't blame you. I do blame you. You all need to go back and do your homework and watch the Bloody Dead Man from start to finish. So fuck you.
I watched it, but I didn't watch the Superman Batman.
You're a better man than this.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Is that it,
I
Jesse?
made up
No,
for it
no,
by
no,
not
that's
finishing
That's not
the,
even close
the
to
other
it.
one.
I have so
Okay,
many.
okay.
The wrestlers.
Oh my god, are we gonna hit 2 hours?
Yes, we are.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
You
This
keep
is great.
interrupting, Ben.
We're talking about my influences, which is the
Ben,
most
this would have been
important thing in
over
the
an
world.
hour and a half ago if you got your shit together.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. Let's not bring that into it.
Yeah, okay. Roddy Piper was a great, like, improvisational insulter, and he's really cool and funny and out of control and great and, like, frenetic or whatever. I don't know if frenetic is a real word. But,
Energetic, I think. Whatever. Who cares?
CM Punk is another one of the big influences because, like, CM Punk, like, brought so much, like, fire and passion and anger and, like, conviction to everything he said.
Yeah.
Like, with CM Punk, nothing is ever like, I don't like you and I'm gonna beat you up. CM Punk is, you are the problem with this fucking world, and I will kill you, motherfucker! Like, that's, when I do stuff like that, that's probably a little bit of CM Punk in me. Macho Man just said weird fucking shit, and he had so much style and charisma, and he was just, like, way out there. And Mick Foley. Mick Foley is probably my favorite of all of them in terms of, like, promos, because I think Mick Foley... Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mankind, all of his monikers, his different personas, which is also a thing that I do, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Definitely learning about Mick Foley. There was this great article on like the Attitude Era and what was good about it. And like reading about Mick Foley made me go like, this must be where like not just like not that all your characters are like that, but like when you get into the really emotional stuff where the characters are really interacting with each other. That's
Mick I think is like the best actor that wrestling has ever had. Like Mick wouldn't just cut promos like, I hate this guy and I'm going to beat him up. He would, like, draw from, like, real big emotions and, like, childhood trauma. And, like, you know, when Mickey Foley was a little boy, I ate a worm to try to impress these kids. They laughed, so I did it again.
Oh, Jesus.
But then rumor got around as kids tend to make rumors, and soon it wasn't Mickey Foley ate a worm to make some kids laugh. It was Mickey Foley eats worms every day. You think any girl wanted to kiss me after that? You think I had a prom date? That hurt, JR! That hurt my feelings! And, like, that is, like...
JR, you monster.
That is so awesome. That's, like, the best promo ever. I love Mick. He has so much emotion. And that's another thing that I get. Like, people love to dismiss anything that you say on the internet by saying, oh, you're crying, you're whining. You just seem like you're on the verge of tears because you're complaining about your comments. Like...
Do you not understand what acting is?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're fucking delivering a performance, you convey emotion. You dummies, you're dumb.
I couldn't tell it was a performance
Because I'm such a good actor, Ben. I'm so good.
I could not. Yeah. You know, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
You know, I too have difficulty distinguishing when Jesse is being serious or
because
not.
It comes
you should
from
appreciate
a real
that, though,
place.
Ben. You're just arguing for immersion in media, and Jesse's so good.
I always understand.
You get immersed in his emotional plight,
and I enjoy being there. I like to.
It's taking emotions and turning them to 11. It's taking like like a consistent minor annoyance and blowing it up to, I'm gonna blow my fucking brains out in front of you people just to prove a point because I hate you.
You know, all of this talk about how like wrestling influences you, it kind of makes sense of that whole the fact that I kind of connect you in my brain to Spoonie and the stuff that he makes, except that you make stuff much more frequently.
Yeah, I think he sort of does the same thing. He's definitely, obviously, very wrestling influenced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he always talks about like I think his biggest influence is like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and that beef. And like that sort of hammy style, whereas you take the more natural style. But like a lot of the creators who I enjoy on YouTube seem to take stuff from wrestling. Like Takahata 101's a big wrestling fan, and he you see that show up in how the Team 4-Star does DBZ Abridged. And
you could almost say that wrestling promos were like the precursor to YouTube.
They kind of are, yeah. And like now that's coming full circle with the New Day being a
the New Day are a YouTube act. Like
those,
their gimmick essentially is that they're three fucking YouTubers who also wrestle.
Yeah,
they're just three dorks, and it's great.
They're
Jesse,
great
you
guys.
haven't talked about the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
You ain't talked about the Macho Man. I ain't being left out. Not today, no sir, no.
All right,
okay,
what
there
else?
it is.
What other
He's been
influences do
mentioned.
you have?
I have a couple more. The Muppets are big influence on my more cartoonish qualities, I guess. My more zany stuff.
The horsehead stuff.
Yeah, I love the fucking Muppets.
Is that Muppet related?
The Muppets,
I'm going to say yes.
The Muppets actually taught me to feel. I was born a psychopath.
There you go.
And the Muppets taught me to relate to human beings.
The Muppets taught you to like stick a hand up your proverbial butt and fake emotions like the felt puppet you are.
I will never forget when Jesse described that he was on the flight to BronyCon in 2014 and he just started thinking about Kermit the Frog and just burst into tears. That's crying the whole flight thinking about Kermit the Frog.
That's so cute.
I don't think that any joke in the history of television has ever made me laugh quite as hard as the very first episode of The Muppet Show, where Kermit is drinking a glass, like a milkshake, out of a straw, and the milkshake is slowly going down in the glass as he sips, and he just turns to the camera and he says, "Think about this for a minute, folks."
Holy shit, that's brilliant.
Wait, what's the
joke?
joke?
That he's a puppet. He can't drink. Where's he going?
Yeah.
Think about this. That's oh my god, I love it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
That plane
Okay,
ride
I
story,
see.
because it was my first time being on a plane or going to BronyCon,
yeah.
and I was like being there to like be a celebrity, and it was really like kind of overwhelming. And I was on the plane just thinking about it, and I was like looking out at the clouds, and I started thinking about like, I bet Kermit would be really proud of me right now. This is so cute. And then I started looking out at the clouds, and I started thinking, rainbows are visions, but only illusions. Rainbows.
See that?
Oh man, this is
how
making
I
me
first,
tear
like,
up.
came to really understand Jesse's like mindset of like how emotional you really get, like. Because there's a lot of, jokes and kayfabe and all that stuff about your videos. It's, like, hard to parse and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, when you told me that story, I was like, yeah, Jesse, like, really legitimately cares about, like, these stories. Like, not just in, like, an intellectual way, but in, like, a he will cry just thinking about Kermit kind of way,
Well, Kermit's like his surrogate father. I mean, like, that shit is making me...
You unzipped me!
tear up.
Alright, Jesse, what else do you have?
Oh, shit.
Weird Al is a huge influence. On I've always been like a parody songwriter kind of guy. And, like everything I do is a parody essentially.
Yeah.
Weird Al. I'm sorry I don't have more to say about Weird Al. But
I think Weird Al's a bit of an influence to me. Yeah.
Yeah, Weird Al's he's fucking Weird Al. He's the man.
He's very clean. He's very clean.
He invented comedy.
Yeah, that's right.
He invented comedy off the internet.
Yeah. And then my two biggest like influences in terms of like my writing are Rod Serling and Hideaki Anno. I guess Anno is more of like a directing than a writing, but like Rod Serling from The Twilight Zone. He was the narrator of The Twilight Zone. He wrote like every episode almost.
Yeah.
He was the greatest genius who ever lived, one of the greatest philosophical minds in human history.
The narrator wrote the show?
Yeah, he
I thought that was just a guy they got.
No,
Dude,
he wrote
that was
it.
his party.
It was his thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Dang.
and, like
That's
Jabu,
how he...
I can't fucking believe you didn't know that he wrote the whole fucking show, you piece of trash.
Rod Serling was
believe
like,
this.
he was so human. Like his stories were all like sci-fi horror stories, but they had this really human soul to them and this like human center. And like his narration, I talked about this in my Christmas video, how like he was so good at like summing up the emotional point of something in like one or two sentences. That was so powerful.
Like
and
that show,
it
was like the horror Star Trek. It just it had an idea, it got to the heart of it, and it was fucking awesome the whole time. Rod Serling is the coolest.
In short, there's nothing mightier than the meek. Oh, all right.
I'm moist.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's the best guy who ever lived. And Anno, Hideaki Anno, the director of Evangelion, is a huge influence on me. Not just because I constantly talk about Evangelion.
Not just because you want to marry Asuka.
He wants to adopt Asuka and give her a real home.
Oh God! When people say Asuka, I want to kill everything.
It's Asuka. Come on.
Yeah.
You're a fucking anime guy. You're an
Asuka,
anime.
of course.
Asuka is really cool. Shinji, he really rules.
Shinji and Rei. I really like Rei.
Rei.
Alright, anyway, why is Ava influential?
Or Anno.
Okay, because Anno is like the best guy in the entire world ever in the history of art in terms of conveying huge emotions through just his directing. Like, if you watch like the end of Gunbuster, when they see the message on the Earth and they're flying and it's that moment, like that is the end of What You're Gonna Do. My Hogan video is so influenced by Anno. Like, just it's like a wordless. Just the it just sounds like I'm patting myself on the back here, but I'm not. I'm patting Anno on the back for making me cool.
It's so weird to hear you reference Gunbuster like that. I don't associate with you at all, but yeah, I mean that is
Jesse
totally...
said that he's had like a video written about Gunbuster forever. But
I know,
he doesn't
but
want
he
to
didn't
post
put it out.
with
If you
no
put it
tits.
out, that would change my perspective probably.
Is there going to be a best anime ever about?
Oh,
Gunbuster?
I've got to aim for the top best whatever in the works already. It's already written. So
hot dog.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, what else you got?
Yeah, I guess that's fucking it. I mean, there's fucking Yeah, Maddox is there. Maddox has always been an influence, and lately, his best buddy Dick Masterson is like equally as much of an influence.
Yeah,
that's like an influence that
I love
Dick Masterson is
so
a fucking hero, a gentleman, and a scholar.
He is a gentleman and a scholar. He's so much nicer than Maddox. He's such much of a better person.
He makes me realize that I was wrong for being influenced by Maddox all these years. I should have been on the Dick Masterson train.
Man, this is really fascinating to hear me praise you.
You should have been
all
writing
you guys
the dick.
praise this. Yeah, I should have been writing the dick. Just because I listened to like 2 or 3 episodes now. Do not have this love for him. I'm really looking for. You guys have hyped him up so much.
Dude,
I can't wait to get into this, dude.
My love for Dick increases every day.
Yeah. I
like
want the dick inside me.
When I listened to the whole podcast, I
want
felt
that
like
as
I
a
was kind of half
soundbite.
and half. But now that I'm re-listening to it, I'm like, I think I agree with Dick on everything. It's just so much easier to agree with him.
It really is that his persona in the podcast changes a lot over it, where he starts off really trying to be like flippant, and he saw it as like, this is a comedy show, this is like, we should be in character, and then over time it's really around like episode like in the 30s or so when they really start like every episode is a huge social issue, that it becomes that like the facade kind of drops, and
it's kind of inevitable with every discussion.
Even early on he's complaining about things like too much swearing.
Right.
What a fucking
he's
piece
kind of a big
trash.
softy.
Yeah, he's
even when he was trying to be like his satirical character.
All right, so I guess I'm going last. Thankfully, saving me for the end has made me really have to piss. So now I'm going to try to go faster just so I can piss at the end of this.
All right.
All right, so Jesus, man, where do I even start though? Because like for me, I guess the first big influence on like what I do now is magazines, like reading magazines when I was a kid. Because, growing up, I was really obsessed with everything I got into. It was like I was super obsessed with Beast Wars for a while, and then Power Rangers, and then like Godzilla and The Lost World, and then Pokemon. And like when I got into Pokemon, I'd just get everything related to it. I'd buy like, there's a magazine with Pokemon on the cover, I gotta have it, So I had like all these Beckett Pokemon collector magazines.
Oh god, I had those things.
Yeah, those are awful.
I had their DBZ collector too. God, that was terrible.
I've seen some of those. Yeah.
And Beckett Yu-Gi-Oh collector, which
I have
they
some
came
of
out
those
with
too.
every.
Yeah. So I
most
had all
intellectual publication.
I had all these Beckett Pokemon collectors, and then my mom had gotten us a subscription to Nintendo Power because it came with like a free Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy. Like it came with that, so she got a subscription for that purpose, and then like. So I had Nintendo Power coming in all the time, and this made me into a huge Nintendo fanboy just because I was like, reading the propaganda essentially. But it was funny because I didn't really like reading at the time, so I didn't really read these magazines so much as like really take in their structure and like the meta elements of it. So I loved that every magazine would open with like they'd have the letters from fans, and then they'd have the like top 10 lists where like fans had voted on what were their top 10 games, like Nintendo games and stuff. Then they'd have like a fan art section, and then they get into the articles and it'd be like the big features and the small features.
Did you ever send an email to Players Pulse? Because I sent a couple. I sent a couple of those. I was a big Nintendo Power fan too. But yeah,
and then they had the reviews at the back, and I was really into like I wouldn't like read the reviews per se, but I'd look at the scores and like. And when I say that, I don't mean that I was looking at the scores to like make a judgment on what the game is, but I was fascinated with the idea that there was like the highest scored game, because at the time it was like Ocarina of Time and Perfect Dark had like when I first read the magazine, they had a percentage system, and it was like 98% for Ocarina of Time and 96% for Perfect Dark, and like no other games were close to that. So I was like really fascinated with this idea that there was like the best game and that it was somewhere out there, and so like. A lot of my obsession with lists and scoring system and systems and like looking at other people's lists and trying to figure out like what are the most highly valued things. A lot of that comes from Nintendo Power, and I would just look at these all the time. And I had a bunch of other magazines over time. Like once I got into video games, I had EGM. When I got into anime, there was Anime Invasion, which later became Anime Insider. So I was always reading
remember
magazines.
reading all of those. We read a lot of the same magazines as kids.
Well, we're probably about the same. Well, I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, you're a little older. So I picked up Anime Insider when it had become Anime Insider.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, this was a huge part of how I got into anime, was that like, because I'd been into Pokemon for a long time, and I was kind of waning interest, nobody cared about it that much anymore, and I'd been into it for like 4 years. And then like my cousin and I discovered anime, and then my cousin picked up the first ever issue of Anime Invasion, and he was like, "There's this thing called anime, and it's all like Ninja Scroll."
It's a Japanese colloquialism.
Yeah, anime, a Japanese colloquialism, and I was like, whoa! And so it had Goku on the cover, like Kid Goku, and like their big cover story was like all the stuff that was left out in the American version of Dragon Ball because they had censored it, So it's like talking about how Goku used to pat everybody's crotch and stuff like that to see what gender they were and how that was cut out. It was just like a huge list of everything that was cut out. All the like how they changed the hell to Hafil, the home for infinite losers.
Hiffle.
Yeah, so it was all just like explaining all these cultural differences between what was acceptable in Japan versus here. But like, yeah, and this magazine, like, it just so happened that like Adult Swim started at the same time. So like we were watching anime there, and I read this magazine cover to cover. Like I read every single thing. And when I say that, I mean like the credits that they'll have in a magazine. Like I read all the credits. Like I just really wanted to know everything possible about anime. And so then from there, I would say my next big influence would be like forums, because I discovered forums through Yu-Gi-Oh! And like I started using internet forums big time, and that's where I started seeing like people sharing different opinions about stuff. And so I would get in on these forums and share my opinion, but I was always like this bratty kid who was like off the handle, and I was always like I cared about my opinion. I didn't really care about other people's opinions. So, like, really being on a forum wasn't that good of an idea, because a forum is about discussion, ostensibly. I mean, most people just kind of post past each other. Like, they don't read each other's posts. They all just share their opinion and move on.
Yeah.
But, like, it made me mad that people weren't discussing my posts in the forum. Because, like, to me, the point was I posted here so that you would respond to it, and then no one would respond, partly because I had a bad attitude and terrible writing skills. But then, so I was bouncing between forums, and I ended up on the Mega Tokyo forums, which is a webcomic that just happens to have a bunch of really, really intense anime fans in its forums. And I learned from all them, and they all had anime blogs. So I started following other people's anime blogs and sort of like copying the formulas that they were doing, where most of them were either episodic bloggers or they'd talk about like more general stuff related to a show or like just what they were watching at the time. So I would like copy their styles, and I was really attracted to blogs because of the fact that everyone has to respond to your point. Like, it's not a discussion where everybody's equal. It's you raise an idea, and then people respond to your idea, which is sort of how YouTube is as well, and, like, all the stuff that we do. So it's kind of like it elevates it to an artistic place, It's not about we're all just a bunch of whoever's,
that's very funny. I want to bring up something from before. My whole life, and Ben can attest to this, whenever I've, like, been reading a new chapter of One Piece or whatever, nobody around me ever gives a shit, and yet I want to tell them like endlessly about what happened and why it's so awesome. So the channel I have now is pretty much just like the result of channeling that feeling into a thing that people have no choice but to listen, or they can just fuck off, which is the same thing that you've
the
got,
amount of
really.
time I spend rambling to my siblings and parents and friends about all the things that are going through my head has reduced significantally ever since I got onto YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably something that's like innate in people doing stuff like what we do. Where we're translating.
We've got a message
rambling.
and we want people to hear it.
And for me, a lot of that was because of the fact that growing up, most people weren't into the stuff I was into. So like trying to justify my interests was a big part of growing up for me, where it was like. I was into all this stuff that no one cared about, and I'm trying to explain to them why I care about it.
You were talking about how like a lot of reviewers, and especially analytical ones, get a lot of flack for not representing populist opinions, and you were theorizing that having obscure, random, different opinions is what motivated them to want to start sharing their opinions more than anyone else
exactly.
does.
Yeah,
like that's why it's so important to me to make like my K-On! Video, where like other people don't seem to understand the appeal of this show, so it's very important to me that I have a video explaining why I feel the way I do, so that people aren't constantly making posts like they always do of like, really, K-On's your favorite? And it's like, yeah, here's the 2 hours of reasons, like that's kind of like the place that all of this comes from. But in terms of like influencing my actual writing style, because like So once I started up my blog, my style was just completely rambling, off the cuff, like no structure, no anything. It was always stream of consciousness, you know? And like I thought that was super cool because I was really into like writers and stuff who were like very postmodern and who didn't give a fuck about like formalism and stuff like that, you know? So a huge influence on me has always been Boogie Pop, the book Boogie Pop and Others, because it's told anachronically. It's like 5 big chapters, and each of them is a different part of one story, but like each narrator doesn't know anything about the other person's part. So basically, what the hell is going on? So anyway,
patchy up here, guys. Come on.
Oh god, there's a dick! There's a giant dick flying out of my mouth!
Alright, so this book is told out of order, and I thought it was really fascinating the way it's like each character is telling their perspective on this story. And I've always loved like doing experimental out of order stuff. Also like Quentin Tarantino films, how they're out of order and stuff. So like you can see some of that in my videos where I feel like everything is contributing to this one big narrative. Like, to me, you have to...
Whoa. What? Your videos don't have a narrative.
They have a...
The series ones definitely do.
I think everyone's videos inherently have a narrative. And I don't think you can really... I don't think you can appreciate someone's content until you understand who they are. Like, if you read a Roger Ebert review and he shits on a movie and you're like, but I liked that movie, it only really makes sense to you once you understand his taste and you understand like where he's coming from. Like when Roger Ebert gave like 1 star to Kick-Ass, it's like the reason is literally that he's old and he felt like he was too old for the movie, you know, where like a 20-something guy would have a totally different perspective. And if you read that article knowing that he's a 75-year-old man, it makes a lot more sense. You understand the narrative of who he is. And so I write all of my videos from the perspective of the more of these you watch, the more sense this will make, you know? And that's why I constantly try to like call back to my old videos or remind people that I've made old videos, you know, like, hey, here's all the, like when people are accusing me of being too negative and I'm like, here's the 95% of my videos that are positive, go watch them because it's kind of important to understand what kind of
they're
viewer
interested in
I
the
am,
what
you
have you
know?
done for me lately mentality, you know? That's
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the only mentality as far as I'm concerned.
So I you know, I think that having a narrative across your stuff is important, and to me, like seeing stuff that is kind of like a bunch of pieces that become a whole, like it's the kind of stories that I've always been really interested in, and I try to. There's some of my videos that do this
complex.
more than the standalone complex, as I would later come to call it because of Ghost in the Shell, where you know each individual story is a part of a bigger grand narrative. So, but as a writer, I was terrible, and I didn't spell check my stuff. I just ran through it, and I had this very entitled attitude. Like, it made me mad that no one read my stuff, even though I wasn't doing anything to make it readable.
You are describing me on forums to a T, and I learned to write basically because people on forums kept giving me shit for not capitalizing things, and finally I was like, fuck it! Fine.
I remember being on DeviantArt doing like comic strip stuff and like just like doing desktop background art and being like, okay, I need to calculate how to get popular. I calculated the top ways to get popular. The second way to get views is to make comments on other people's stuff. But then I realized the number one thing to do is to make good art. And I was like, oh.
Right. Yeah.
I'd actually recently put that pretty low on the list if you're interested in just getting views these days, but whatever.
Yeah, well, on DeviantArt, having good art is important.
No, I didn't understand how to make good art, and I just thought that like people had like I just thought that if I had my stuff spread out enough, eventually, like if I cast a wide enough net, people will find it. Like the people who will appreciate this will eventually find it. And what I didn't realize is that no one will appreciate this because it's terrible. You know, like there's no one for whom this is great art. So like, you know, my writing was pretty bad, and then finally I started, like, because I, you know, posted a lot in the anime community.
Is this really
on,
your
like, other
influences
people's...
thing? This is like your whole story.
Yeah, this is important.
You didn't expect
this
to have
a
huge
This is important to the influences. I know what I planned this, all right? I know what I'm talking about. Because
so
I was talking to other people in the community, and because I was bad, eventually people found me who taught me that I was doing everything wrong. So I got these bloggers, these other bloggers who I would, comment on their stuff, and I'd be like, why is no one reading my shit? And they were like, you're terrible. They're like, you're not spell checking anything you write. Nobody wants to read something that's all spelling errors. Nobody wants to read this or that. And so, like, meeting these bloggers like Ghost Lightning, who would go on to be like my biggest influence, which is why this whole story was important, is like they were literally telling me what I was doing wrong. They were like, well, the attitude you take, because I had this very confrontational attitude, like my opinion's the only one that matters, fuck everybody else. And it's like, you want comments and you want people to discuss your ideas, but you keep telling people that their ideas don't matter and, like, pushing them away. So Ghost Lightning taught me about the way that he acts. Is he said, I am extremely arrogant and I really, really think that I'm great, but I never tell anybody that. I put on this persona of being humble and it makes people respect me, but I know how to, defend myself when people attack me, And it's this very, Captain Picard mindset is the way I would describe it. Like, he's the character who represents this the best, where Captain Picard never puts on airs, he never makes himself out to be amazing, but he will always be the guy, when it comes down to authority, he's like, look, I know what I'm fucking doing,
Yeah.
And will be that guy. So that kind of mind, and that's the reason I love Picard so much, is that he reminds me of, Ghost Lightning, and my dad also has a similar attitude that he's developed over time, of recognizing that that's how you reach people, is by, saying, you're not wrong, but I'm also right,
Yeah.
So
it's hard to argue with Picard.
Yeah,
at any point.
and Ghost Lightning had this way of doing stuff where he would answer every comment that he got. He would respond to everybody, no matter how asinine the comment is, because it would make people in turn improve their comments, which I keep telling people is the way to go if you want better comment sections. Let them know that you're reading it, and then it makes them self-conscious about what they're writing. So, and in general, he was just really fucking good. He was someone who had, studied, he was a long-time English and literature major, so he was really into deep reading and deep into philosophy and stuff like that. So just generally talking to Ghost Lightning taught me so much about the world and broadened my perspective so much. I came to visit him for a month in the Philippines where he lives, and he literally read me a book on literary theory. He was like, here's a bunch of you're gonna know all these terms now that people use, it's now I know what postmodernism is and what feminist theory is and all this stuff that I learned from this literary theory book. And then he would just explain to me all these really deep philosophical concepts, gave me a lot of reading material to learn. So that's why I always describe him as my mentor, because not just that reading his blog did influence me, and I was also influential to him, because the biggest thing that I taught him was how to make stuff fast. Because I've always been super prolific, just by nature. I like things to come out as fast as possible as soon as I've had the idea. And, he was more the type who would worry about, is this finished or not? And I was like, just publish stuff, dude. Because I want to read it.
That's an influence you've had on me lately. Yeah. That was something I was always slow to get stuff done, and you made me realize just do it fast, and it'll actually be better than if you worked really hard sometimes.
Well, because Andrew Hussey taught me that you gotta fucking churn it out, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if any one particular drawing is shit. You just put it out.
And I'm gonna get to Hussey too, because at this
point,
point,
can we please hurry this thing along? I'm dying here.
This is literally Digibros Draw My Life at this point.
Jesse and Devu
I just like
both
how
went
Digi
on
was
for 30 minutes
I know,
apiece.
and I wish
Everyone has to hurry up so
I went
Digi
on
can get to his
10
grand
minutes.
narrative.
As much as 12 minutes, guys. It was just I was talking really
God damn
fast.
it, you pussies! This is the best podcast. It should go for 5 hours.
Seriously, guys.
Anyway.
You can look at the waveform. Whoever edits this, my whole segment was 10 minutes, and then 2 minutes of follow up. That was it.
Fair
it's
enough.
just
Whatever.
It was really dense and amazing.
Take it away.
So I was really
Mine
influenced by
was
these
20,
bloggers, these guys who taught me how to write. This is the most, all of this was the most important part. After this, it's just going to be a list, all right? That was all the stuff that was the big, huge influence
I was
shit.
just really afraid that every one of your influence was going to include the influences.
This was all build up of how I, became a writer that I am now. That these people's, that the mindset and the attitude of why I started writing combined with the way that people taught me what to do, and then said here's what you should do. And then from then on, it's just been I love taking other people's styles and deliberately writing in their style, and I feel like it's kind of like a power stealing thing. Like, I eat you and I gain your powers. Like, that's kind of my mindset towards other content creators.
Like
and,
Mega Man.
Yeah, you'll see it all exactly like Mega Man. You'll see it all the time on my channel where I go out of my way to do another person's style for like one video, and then like whatever elements of it I like, I incorporate forever. So like Your Anime Sucks videos are a huge send up of Your Movie Sucks.
Yeah.
I did a Should You Watch in the style of Demolition D. I've done tons of stuff where I took elements of Jesse's work. Jesse's probably the biggest influence on me as a video maker in terms of like not a writer, but just as how I make videos.
By the way,
and,
just
like,
keeping score, that is now 4 people in this call that have cited me as a direct influence. So anyone of you watching who doesn't think that I'm the shit, now you know that I am truly the shit.
Jesse Wood is the shit.
Jesse's biggest influence on me was like deciding to try to incorporate more like emotional factors into the videos, like thinking of it more as an artwork, you know, thinking of it more as like, yeah, I am doing something that's special and new and different, you know, and like looking at Jesse's work in particular, just like thinking about how it relates to other people, where we had this discussion the other day that like YouTube, a lot of it like doesn't have a lot of self-respect necessarily. I think a lot of YouTubers like want to be filmmakers, or they want to be doing something else.
There's nothing that pisses me off more than the fucking YouTube. Like JonTron is the perfect example. We know he's dying to get on TV. He'll do whatever it fucking takes.
Well, he wants his stuff to look like television, as opposed to looking like YouTube. And I think
his art suffers as a result. It's it's
I think Jesse has done the most to like elevate YouTube as its own medium that has its own message that it can send, where like the way he's used his multiple channels, the way he's used the ongoing narratives in them, like is something that you couldn't do necessarily elsewhere. Like it is a unique story to YouTube that has an interesting point to it. And so like that's kind of made me start to look at YouTube as like, what can I do that is distinctly this medium?
Man, I used to love JonTron so much for how he used his whole house compared to like AVGN would do that.
He was really creative.
I have a whole vlog planned about JonTron that I'm finally gonna do probably maybe tonight. I gotta get this out there about how he's misunderstanding the medium of YouTube.
And and now he's got these fake sets. It breaks
Dude, and how we'll bring in a fucking horse for the joke that he brought in a horse. Wow! 10 out of 10 joke writing, JonTron. You're really elevating the medium.
But everyone's had little bits of influence. I've written stuff to be like Hippo. I've written stuff to be like Nate in smaller ways. I've written stuff to be like, you know, everybody.
Even me?
I don't know about writing like you.
But, not me, because you've only known me for like 7 months. So
right. But like, there's a lot of YouTubers who I've copied. The biggest ones who got me to go onto YouTube were Ego Raptor and Errant Signal, because Ego Raptor taught me that you could do this in video, and then Errant Signal taught me that you could do this lazily in video. That you don't have to animate everything and make it funny. You could just do an analysis. So
I hope that I realize that one day.
Mr. Plinkett's obviously a huge influence. Just all the everyone who's in my subscriptions. If I'm subscribed to somebody, I've probably incorporated some small element of their style into mine. You know, I've got a video coming up that's gonna be like somewhere. Every Frame of Painting was big. If you can see the moment, like you can also find the moment I found each of these guys, because there will be a video that's like them right afterwards. Like right after Every Frame came out, I did all these videos about visual like style in anime. Like just like I got really focused on visuals for a while, and then I've got one coming up that's kind of like somewhere between Every Frame and Nerdwriter. But like, yeah, I love assimilating other people's stuff and then like turning it into my own. And I think that the reason I consider like the Asterisk War series to be like my first real masterpiece is that it wasn't copying any one person, but it kind of took everything I knew, everything I'd learned, and like put it into one place. You know? Totally. So it was like the ultimate, here's everything I've got as a YouTuber right now, and let's throw it all into one video. And then work ethic, Andrew Hussey is my biggest influence. And I've always said that if I ever had a wall of heroes, because the My Little Pony writer M.A. Larson has behind his desk, he has pictures of all of his like his favorite writers and all the people who he like looks up to, and he calls it like his wall of heroes. And I always thought I just want to have Andrew WK and Andrew Hussey, the two Andrews, because Andrew WK has the mindset of everything is great. Like he describes everything as a party. In his world, everything is a party. But if you follow his Twitter, it's like...
By the way, 2 days ago, Andrew WK formed the Party Party.
Oh.
That's just a bit of news. Okay.
If you followed his Twitter, there'd be times where Andrew WK would say things like, just pissed on my hand, life is fucking awesome, you know? And so, like, that mindset of, like, no matter what it is awesome, like, is very much how I try to view the world. As, like, even though some stuff is, like, fucking terrible, it still is interesting and informs you in a way.
What does this man do? Is he a musician?
Yeah, Andrew WK was originally a musician, and he has later turned into like just a weird personality that exists in the world. He's done all kinds of shit, but his first album is fucking great. The album I Get Wet, and yeah, so I love his attitude. But then Andrew Husty has the work ethic, and there were other people who inspired me, like just hearing about Stephen King. I never actually read any of his books, but I know that he was the one who said, like, if you're a writer, all you should be doing is writing. Like, you know, that's like how, if you want to get good at writing, just write all the time, you know, is what he said. But Andrew Husty had the most inspirational quote to me where he said that Homestuck is not a work of art to him, it's just a way of life. Like, he doesn't do anything else. He was like, all I do is I write Homestuck and I put it out, and it's not like I'm doing it to create this one thing, like this thing that, you know, is meant to be read just by itself. He's
all like,
it's
I
just
came here
what
to fuck bitches and write Homestuck, and I'm all out of bitches.
He also said that it's his chief leisure activity.
Yeah, that's like,
that's great.
But it's all he does. Like, and the production rate was so insane. Like, for the first year of Homestuck coming out, it was 5 posts a day every day, and it would never stop.
Yeah,
you know. And then like it only started slowing down because of the fact that he
sold out to that damn video game.
Right. But it only started slowing down because the things he was doing would take longer. Like, he would always say, every time there's a gap in Homestuck, it's not because I'm not writing Homestuck, it's because the next update is that much larger. So, like, you know, Homestuck would go down for a month, and then a full fucking animation would come out, or a video game would come out as one of the chapters. You know, like, there's never a time where he just stopped and was like, I'm gonna take a break, because he didn't view it as work. He viewed it as a lifestyle. He viewed it as, this is what I like doing, you know. So that's the kind of mentality that I like to have about my work as well, is like, there's no sense in me being like, oh, I need a break from YouTube, because it's like, YouTube is all I want to be doing, you know. So like,
I feel the same way.
Doing it persistently is the best way.
I feel the same way.
I just have like crippling self-doubt and depression.
I feel the same way too.
That.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my influences, the major ones. So yeah,
I feel the same way too.
Holy shit.
I wanted to say, by the way, that upon listening to yours, Digi, I reflected on it myself, and I realized that there's probably the biggest influence out of all of these that I didn't even mention, and it's specifically 4chan. Yeah, I mean, I know that's gonna, you know, people are gonna think that's retarded, but
well, your sense of humor is very clearly 4chan.
For just sure. From my last video, people, or whatever it was, people were like,
it's a real disgrace.
Everyone's ashamed of it, but you know, it's really changed the way I talk, the way I write. I mean, when I talked about how I will, you know, just yell at people, like the things that I think are awesome, and they'll try to stop listening. That's what 4chan is for me now. That's where I do that. Like,
whenever you have a conversation with someone, you just hold up a picture and hold it next to your conversation that you're having.
For an epic reaction meme. Lol, love them. Yeah, that's, I don't know.
Well, I would cite 4chan as an influence as well on the way I think and like interact with stuff.
Yeah.
I think 4chan has influenced like how all internet media works.
Yeah,
that's true. That's for sure.
I think
but
4chan has halted human advancement forever and doomed us as a
That's because you're on the outside looking in, my friend. You just don't get us. You just don't get it.
You just don't get why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
And by the way, I think the most important thing that 4chan teaches the world is how to like be investigative. Like 4chan really is all about like,
it's a great aggregator of information, so it really encourages you to go out and find things.
Yeah, it encourages you to like, because their whole policy is like no hand holding and stuff and no spoon feeding, and like they go too far with it to an extent that it's kind of stupid, where they're like clearly showing you something that they know you don't know what it is, just to fuck with you.
It's an aggregator of information. But it's also an aggregator of stupid dummies.
You say that, it's just, I don't know, it's just a community
I think
of
it inspires
people
to like learn how to find stuff and learn how to like investigate and learn how to like you know, find things for yourself. I get bothered sometimes when I know some people who will like ask me shit that I know they could find the answer to like in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But because they know I know the answer, they just ask me.
hate that.
But I'm like, I have the 4chan mentality of like, fucking Google it. Like, look it up yourself.
Yeah,
like you can
Well,
find all
that's the
this
whole thing.
information.
You'd find out the answer quicker if you just looked it up than if you wait for me to respond.
But people just don't kind of think that way.
'Cause they're stupid.
Naturally, they have to be educated.
Yeah,
I mean, they're ignorant.
People have to try learning how to program before they realize that everything's on Google, and you shouldn't ask anybody unless you can't find it on Google.
Yeah, dude. And by the way, while I was saying that before, I remembered a couple other personal influences. Let me see. It was Gary Ridgway, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, and Ted Bundy. And then recently, I've really been getting into Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those guys are kind of the pentagram.
I like how he's listed among serial killers.
Yeah.
What? No,
I'm a big admirer of the. I really admire the work of John Wilson.
His masterpiece made a big splash, if you know what I mean.
You know, there's this underground guy you might not have heard of, Vlad the Impaler. He does really great stuff.
You know,
support him on
Adolf Hitler. His paintings are kind of bad, but some of the stuff that he wrote, man,
he did a lot of like
People
like
should have
ash work
listened to
later
that
on in his
guy.
career. It was
no,
good stuff.
There's actually
he
one
was a
guy
true
I should've-
bohemian.
If there's one person I should have mentioned that I didn't more than anything, it would be Yahtzee.
Mm.
I think he's the biggest.
I
biggest
kind of
influence
glossed
on, like,
over
my-
zero punctuation too.
Yeah, well, like I have a lot of comedic influences. Some of them are the same as Hippos, like old sketch comedy. Like I've always been huge into like watching sketch comedy shows and stuff like that. But I think in terms of what I do in my main videos, like the way Yahtzee just kind of flippantly throws jokes in the middle of ranting is the way I do my humor, where it's like I never take a break from the point. It's always just like, and then he fucking threw a piece of shit into her face, and like what I'm saying is still what's happening, but I'm just saying it in a funnier way.
By the way, am I the only one of us who's actually met Ben Yahtzee Crawshaw?
Yeah, you are. I'm jealous.
Met him one-on-one at a convention. I shook his hand, got his signature. It's hanging in my room.
Yeah,
that's rad.
I met Linkara, so take
I met Spoonie. So actually, I met Hironobu Sakaguchi.
I met
Ben met Roosh.
I met Roosh V, if anyone knows that guy.
That actually reminds me, this isn't really a big thing much these days, but I was big into the pickup community. Several years ago in college. So it doesn't really apply to my life much these days, but it did change my perspective on things.
I'll even say that, like, even though I don't write fiction anymore, the last time I tried was a story called Cyrano and Purple Steve that's still online. And it was like, literally, I read Mogworld by Yahtzee, and I was like, I want to write a funny thing. And I
that's
wrote
cool.
That. Yeah, so Yahtzee, that's
cool.
I've never followed anyone more than I follow Yahtzee. Like I will watch or read everything he does just like out of habit, and I'd say he's like the biggest person I follow.
That's how I feel about his
Besides
zero
literally, he's literally the biggest person you follow, other than Jeff now.
Yeah.
In terms of height.
Why is he fat?
No, he's like 6'5".
6'5", yeah. So
how tall is Movie Bob on a completely unrelated
6'2".
Really?
He's 6'2" wide. He's 6'2" wide.
He's a tall dude.
Yeah, you cannot tell though because of how wide he is.
Do you think? Do you think he would be taller if you tipped him on his side?
Probably, yeah.
I do. Do you think he's perfectly spherical? Do you think like all angles are the same?
I did omit something, and I touched on it briefly, but I feel like I have to.
Am I the only one who got all my work done on my one try?
Yeah.
No, that's really you read off of your chart, didn't you? Like, I didn't.
I made another list with the ads.
I had a list, but I missed one in compiling it, which is I mentioned him briefly, but I can't overstate really how much Tim Schafer influenced me, and I know people.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I said him, but I know people don't like Tim Schafer very much anymore.
He's a cuck. He's a sellout.
He's all these things that people say about him, but like. Playing Psychonauts and Grim Fandango back to back as a kid, like Psychonauts came out for the PS2 and I played that game and it was the funniest thing that I'd ever experienced in my life up to that point because
it blew me away with how funny it was.
Yeah,
it was absolutely crazy.
You know what? That's a good point because everybody hates Tim Schafer now for these kind of memey reasons.
Yeah,
but he was
I hate that kind of stuff.
He was a great creator.
Yeah,
and
he's
Like the same thing you can say for like Joss Whedon. Everybody hates Joss Whedon now because he's a cock and he's fucking feminist.
He did really fumble that whole Kickstarter thing.
Oh, absolutely. He's fumbled a lot of things PR-wise, although what I respect him for is he went on Reddit and he actually like answered questions where they were like, how did you fuck up this thing? And he's like, well, and
what a hero. Faced the music on Reddit over his internet connection.
In an AMA,
What a man.
most people, I respect that. I respect his sense of humor a lot. And, like, the biggest thing for me is playing Grim Fandango and Psychonauts back-to-back. Because I played Psychonauts, and I was like, I have to consume everything that this man has ever made. So I downloaded Scum VM, downloaded Day of the Tentacle, played Grim Fandango, which was really fucking hard to get running on my computer, by the way. That game, oh man, the Grime engine does not play nice with anything. But playing all of those things and, like, starting to understand who Tim Schafer was as a kid, that was the first moment in my life that I was like, holy shit, art is something that, like, I could do as a person. And that was, like, the moment when I was like, I want to make video games, which eventually transitioned into, I want to make YouTube videos. So,
oh, what a
just
it's not.
Just keep
it's not a
lowering
lowering
that bar.
of bars. It was an accepting of, like, I want to make art, and I started out wanting to make video games more than anything. But then I was like, you know what? What I do best is acting, editing, and writing. And YouTube is the place for me to explore
mentioned this
that.
before on the show, but the number one advice to all creatives is you have to like doing it, not like the idea of having done it.
Yeah.
So if you like, I think most people who try to get into making video games, that is like what you realize is that making video games is one of the hardest kinds of art to make because
programming
is
a
so
bitch.
much not art process of like coding, which is fucking boring, you know. So I think that's why.
Like I have like 4 different full fleshed out games that I want to make, but fuck man, programming not happening.
All right, we got to wrap this up because I have to pee really bad. And,
okay.
Are we finished?
Wait,
Are we finishing?
Follow up.
I've got one thing to say. I don't know who I am, and I don't know why I do what I do at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I'm with you. I'm with you, man.
If the point is over, I have a story to tell that I've been wanting to tell the whole time.
How long?
It's completely off topic.
Just let Digi pee. You can listen to the podcast later.
Digi go pee. Let's let him do his thing.
I want to hear this. Just go ahead and tell it.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, our topic was Normies Re.
Yes,
and
a famous one. Yeah,
I last night had the most Normies Re moment, probably of my entire life. I was out with my friends in the city in Flint because that's where all of my ridiculous stories take place.
Mm-hmm.
I was out with my friends and we went to like this place that was like a coffee shop and also like a crepe restaurant.
Sounds hipstery.
Which is super hipstery, super gay. You know,
real gay.
Crepes. It's like little pancakes with like ice cream on them and shit.
Yep.
So we went there and I was standing in line.
Yeah, who cares
the crepes are a hugely important part of this story.
No, fuck the crepes.
Hey, you know what I call your crepes? I call them craps.
I have dinner waiting for me for like an hour and a half.
He couldn't wait to get the story out to you, folks.
This is relevant to our topic from the past
tell the
week.
story then.
Okay. You guys are interrupting me, you dumb shit, faggot asshole, cocksucking dummies.
Oh God,
we've lost.
Oh
okay,
God.
All right, go. You got the crepes. You're at the restaurant place.
Okay, I was at the fucking restaurant. I'm not gonna rush through this fucking story, people. Okay, I'm gonna tell it at my own goddamn pace, and you guys are gonna sit there and fucking shut your mouths and listen to it. You're not gonna make me rush through it.
Tell
You're not
then.
gonna you're not gonna befuddle me. You're not gonna mess up my flow.
How you're gonna tell it? Just tell it.
No. The people need to know. The people need to understand. And you know what? Now this is going to turn into another long, rambly, endless guest vlog. This is what this is gonna be now. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna talk about my method of telling this story, and I'm gonna keep going on and on and on. He just keeps talking and talking and talking. In one incredible,
really
Now I gotta wait. Now I gotta wait for Digi to come back. I can't fucking tell now.
All right. Well, if you're gonna take a break, no, shut up, everyone. All right. I want to take this moment to say that Tom, you mentioned before that I'm doing a Pokemon comic, and that's true. And unless this podcast gets edited and posted super fucking fast, it will probably be out by the time you, the listener, are hearing this. So, but it'll only be on my Patreon because
you're not allowed to talk about your Patreon.
What?
We made a rule
because it's going up. Because it's going up on Patreon before I put it on my site because I have to spend some time and do the HTML to actually get it on the site. So, if you're hearing this, go to fucking patreon.com/Ben Saint and become a pledger. And then you can read my thing, my Pokemon comic.
Just cut it all out.
You can just wait like
edit in the big sound of a man sucking another man's penis. Put that in.
Or you can just wait like 4 or 5 days or a week, and then it'll be out.
Digi, just cut in this sound.
Agreed.
No, I haven't mentioned that on the podcast. I wanted to let the podcast listeners know. I make things, guys. I put things on
your story.
Okay,
I was waiting for you, actually.
Because you ever take a piss so hard that your fucking bladder hurts afterwards?
Yes, I just did, because I did exactly what you did and waited for 2 hours to take a piss.
Taking a piss? I assumed you were taking a crepe.
Okay, back to crepes. Go.
I was in the crepe store with my friends, and I didn't have any money, so I was like, why am I standing in line? So I saw my two friends, they were my two friends who are women's. That's important to the story. They were like, out of the corner of my eye, I saw them go and sit down with their crepes. So I figured, I don't have any money. Why am I in line? I just went to go.
I can't hear that word without just hearing crepes now.
Yeah.
And some crepes.
Shut up, guys. Shut the fuck up.
So I saw my friend sitting down. I thought, okay, I shouldn't be in line. I don't have any money. So I went to go sit down with them. I sat down next to them, and I sat down and I immediately said, hey, that's a nice crepe. Like, commenting on her crepe. And so they both looked at me. They looked up at me, and they had this look on their face. And I looked at them, and I realized, these are not my friends.
Okay.
I don't know these women.
So wait, you sat down next to them, right? That's what's happening?
Yeah, I saw them out of the corner of my eyes. I thought they were my friends. I sat down and said, nice crepe. And they looked at me like, who is this fucking creepy guy trying to fucking hit on us via crepe? And I just it was like this moment of silence when I looked at them and I realized what was happening, and I just got up and I walked back to the line.
Wait, how was that a normie's moment?
I don't know, because they were normies.
They were normies.
I don't know. It was like an RK9 kind of green text "I'm a frogman" Pepe moment, I guess.
Yeah. Where were your friends though? Were they just at a different?
They were
table?
still in line. They were still buying their crepes.
And then you walked back and hoped none of them noticed.
No, I told them because it was hilarious.
Okay, good.
But it was also the entire rest of the time we were in the restaurant, I was spacing out. I was thinking about what just happened. I couldn't join in the conversation. I wasn't even. They were having fun talking, and I was just waiting for these two women to leave so that I could feel safe again. Who I accidentally sexually harassed.
Yeah.
And I started really going into the what just happened and sort of concocting scenarios oh god, what if it gets even worse? Because then they had a guy with them and I'm like, oh god, what if the guy comes over and says why are you hitting on my girls via crepe? And so then I was thinking oh my god, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. And then I was and then I was thinking of how I would take this guy down, how I would use my environment. And meanwhile, my friends are having
this mental battle against this man. Okay,
you're
my
just
friends are having a conversation,
figuring out where
and I'm
to hide
not even there.
Movie with Jet Li, Hero, where the two warriors visualize a fight between the two, and it's all a battle inside the mind. Only in this case, it's all in Jesse's mind.
Yeah, so it's just imagine all of my friends eating crepes and talking amongst themselves, and then me just spaced out all around me.
And then suddenly it's just someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers,
we should
dreamers.
And then
we should
Kermit
make
came
Normies
and
Free a
saved
side spin-off podcast where we do our weekly stories of us being freaks.
I never leave the house, so that'd be difficult.
I have experiences like Jesse's all the time where anytime something awkward happens to me in public, I imagine this incredibly elaborate scenario of where I think it's going to go. But I have a safety mechanism for that, which is that there's always one moment where I imagine something so ridiculous that I then become convinced. It hits me. I'm like, wait. The fact that I've thought about this means it's too stupid to happen. And that's always how I get through those, because I start to get paranoid, and I'm like, oh god, what if it always ends with the police with me. It's always I'm going to get arrested for something. Okay. And then once it hits that point, I'm like, wait, The fact that I've imagined all this means it's so unlikely that this will now happen that I could have predicted all this.
Is that like a common thing? Because I do the exact same thing. I tell myself because I've imagined, like things never happen the way I picture them happening. So because I pictured it happening,
that's why I'll never be successful.
Follow, but whatever. All right, folks, that's enough of that. It's time to wrap this bad boy up and ship it.
Oh, thank
the
God!
Door.
Right? 2.5 hours deep into this piece of shit.
Not it.
Not it. Not it.
Not it.
Not it. Tom's editing
not
it.
it.
Tom
Literally
can do it.
nobody is.
No one's it.
This will be the podcast we just throw in the trash.
Oh God! No.
All right, everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Hey.
Patreon.com/Ben Saint.